Alfie is a WOR race winner.
Jensen makes it 5 in a row.
Danny Berejnay wins on debut.
Shanaka returns to winning ways in WOR.
Season 12 sees a new man. It's Shadow. He is your Xbox champion.
And Jensen is the new king of PlayStation.
From the back row of the grid, against all odds, Nicholas Longy wins the title.
Goes past the safety car.
What has gone on here?
Bowman spins.
Stunning move from the Spaniard.
He's taken out Rambo. Here comes Longy.
We're going 4 wide down to turn 1.
Oh, he's taking him out.
The captain riders collide.
Tomek to the inside.
Shadow wins at Brazil. Absolutely sensational.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to World Online Racing, round number 3 of the season, and we are at the Miami International Autodrome tonight for the first time in WOR with the latest track for in the Americas. We'll see what the drivers can do around here. Alongside me tonight is not Dan Field. He's enjoying himself. He's getting ready for a well-earned holiday. Apparently you get those when you're younger. You get these things called school holidays, but we've got a fantastic replacement tonight in Chris Buxton, aka King Kodiak. And Chris, we've had Austria, we've had Bahrain, got Miami tonight. Pretty much all Miami's got in common with those tracks is 3 DRS zones. It is a lot more technical and tricky, and it could be an interesting race tonight.
You're not wrong there, Luke. It is a tricky circuit. I've actually covered this circuit twice already this week, so I won't go so far as to say I'm an expert, but at least have a bit of an idea to know what to expect, more so than I did at the beginning of the week. Now, your trouble zones, your action points are going to be turn 11, which is as you're coming in towards the end of Sector 2, that twisty bit turns 11 to 16. Getting into turn 11 before anybody else is going to be crucial, because you are damned if you're going to make an overtake through 11 to 16. Turn 17, the last corner at the end of that very long straight before you get back towards the start-finish line. It's such a heavy braking zone at the end of turn 17. That is going to be a very crucial spot for getting the DRS right, and especially if anybody's defending late in the race, that's where you're going to see some action. If the people are brave, turn 1, well, if they've got the last couple of turns wrong, or well, they being the person that someone's chasing, if they've got it wrong, turn 1, maybe. But I've seen side-by-sides from 1 right the way through to turn 8, which is the end of Sector 1, before you then get onto the long, flat-out stretch towards the back. So there are places to overtake. Is it tricky? You're damn right. There's going to be spins. There's probably going to be broken bits of car in various points, because this is not an easy track, and because it's brand new for this year, it's not a track that's ingrained in your racing DNA. It's no Monza, it's no Spa, it's no Silverstone. It's not a track that everybody has known from a variety of different racing games throughout the years. Brand new for this year, obviously, so there's still an element of learning to do.
Yeah, there certainly is. And the drivers, like you said, are still getting used to it, still getting a bit used to the game. They've had a couple of weeks here tonight. We mentioned Austria was week number 1. Last time out, we had a sprint event at Bahrain. The sprint race was won by Thomas Ronhaar, and the main race was won by Thomas Ronhaar as well. He took a fantastic victory at Bahrain, just pipping Lucas Blakely with a brilliant switchback towards the end of the race. And you can see the results there. Alfie Butcher, despite not having the best sprint race, managed to get himself a podium. Both Alfa Romeos up there towards the top as well. Cavaton, Luke Smith, Perronier, Presneda scoring their first points of the season as well. What that has done for the Drivers' Championship? Well, with podiums in every single race so far, not too surprising to see that Lucas Blakely is on top with 49 points. Thomas Ronhaar has 45. Nicholas Longy, who will not be here tonight, is on 30 points. Jake Benham 24. Alfie Butcher rounding out the top 5 on 19 points. And you can see the rest of the top 10 there. It's sort of been the story of Blakely across every league that he's done so far. Chris, very consistent at the moment. Looking, very good. Nearly got pole position in Austria. Won the race quite comfortably. Was leading up until the final lap at Bahrain. It's going to take a special performance to beat him. But if you get everything right, at the end of the day, he is human. It is possible.
It's possible, but it's going to take some doing. Yeah, exactly as you say, the McLaren lead man here in WOR is absolutely setting the world alight, along with this entire field, quite frankly. Anybody in this tier is in that alien category, but there's a few names I really am enjoying seeing. Lucas is one of them. Alfie Butcher is definitely another. When he's on form, he is absolutely rapid. Consistency, that's probably a little bit unfair to say consistency isn't quite his thing, because there are times when he's just caught out in unfortunate incidents, which they all are. But there are times when Alfie will just make that slight error that you wouldn't expect from some others. But he is so unbelievably quick at such a young age. But then, to me, everybody is young, because I am the old one of sim racing. I have been for years, and I remain so. But again, there's so many names you could look to for consistency. Luke Smith, PSGL F2 champion from last season. Jake Benham has proven himself time and again. Paradic, who isn't here, so he can't prove himself. Carrison. Now, again, these are names that we've all seen in so many different places and doing well in so many different areas. Simon Perroni, who's had a bit of a rough start. Jarno Opmeer doesn't seem to be doing well in this game. I noticed he really seems to be off of his all-dominant form. So are we finally going to see a bit of change of the guard?
Yeah, are we going to see, slightly different things? We have already seen someone in the chat asking, is Jarno here tonight? He is, definitely. We can go through what the grid order is going to be for the night. So, in the Mercedes, we have got their full lineup. Jarno Opmeer, Jake Benham. Red Bull have Tom Manley and Liam Parnell after a difficult main race last time out, obviously, with disconnection issues. We have got Louis Welsh and Primoz Miklevčić, a late substitute in the Ferrari. Lucas Blakely, and now that Barry Bowman has dropped down to a reserve driver, a new full-time driver in the McLaren, moving from Aston Martin, Ruben Pedreño, and you'll hear why he's moved from Aston Martin in a minute. In the Alpine, Samuel Bayen, and tonight Will Lewis replacing Luke Smith. AlphaTauri have Josh Idowu and Jack West. In the Aston Martin, it is going to be Simon Perronier alongside, for the first time this season, the German Simon Weigang. Williams have got Alvaro Caraton and Daniele Haddad. Alfa Romeo, Joost Noordijk and Ilkay Baena, so an all-reserve lineup there. And in the Haas, Piotr Stakalek and Carter Lundy. So, very quick drivers, some of those from esports, some of the young guns, like we've said. We'll see what kind of performances some of them can put in, because Haddad and Weigang we've not seen so far yet on this game. We've not seen them too much in other leagues either. So it'll be interesting to see just what sort of form they're in.
Fair play, and the difference top to bottom is so minute. That's another thing to bear in mind, that a driver at any given circuit could only be, say, 0.2 off the lead pace, and that 0.2 difference is enough to see them outside of the top 10. That's how close this kind of field is. Sam Bean is another one that I'm curious to see how he's doing in this particular video. Like you say, Daniele Haddad. I saw a tweet earlier from Simon Weigang saying he felt he was much more on pace with F122. So are we going to start seeing the German back towards the top? Joost Noordijk, another name I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to seeing all of them. That's a broken record statement, which I do not apologise for making, because these drivers are fantastic and I look forward to seeing them all.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they're so fantastic. We've spoken about this track. If you're familiar with how things work here at WOR, if you're new, firstly, welcome. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. It is a full qualifying, so 18 minutes Q1, 5 drivers eliminated, 15 minutes Q2, 5 drivers are eliminated, and then the top 10 in that 12-minute shootout, and then a 50% race. And it is the same scoring system as they use in Formula 1, except there is no point for the fastest lap. And I've got to say, I know it's a real rule that changed in real life, but I really enjoy how, on this game, we've got none of this messing around in Q2, trying to see what tyres you're going to be starting on. Everyone's just got to go all out, because, of course, you do get that fresh tyre choice for the strategy. And talking about the strategy around here, soft tyres tend to be just left for qualifying. They're not really a fantastic race tyre.
No, the softs will not last here. This is an absolute tyre muncher. Expect the entire field to be starting on hards with a few, shall we say, adventurous types starting on the mediums. By and large, the hard tyre is certainly the favoured starting tyre. If anyone's gone onto soft, it means they've had a really rough day or they're fed up and they're trying to nick the fastest lap at the end of the race. So, yeah, that's the only time you're going to see the red mark soft tyre.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you will see drivers just going for that fastest lap, for that a tiny bit of pride. It's not worth anything, but it is always nice if you can somehow manage to just get yourself that fastest lap, get that bit of pride, and see how things are going to go. Thankfully, we aren't too far away now from the start of qualifying. In fact, we can head out there towards the circuit, seeing what everyone is doing at the moment. And I've got to say, it is looking rather overcast in Miami. Not something that we're perhaps used to seeing.
No. I haven't had wet. In the runnings I've had so far, I've had cloud, but not wet. So, yeah, this could be interesting. Jarno is already put intermediate tyres on. I think he's kind of jumping the gun there a little bit, but it's nothing unusual in Q1 session to see the intermediate tyres run on the very first sight of laps. I've seen that several times. It looks like Joost is following Simon Perroni. It's gone full wet. So, okay, that's a bit curious. But, yeah, several people looking like they're going to fit the Inters for that all-crucial sight of lap. But we could well be seeing wet weather towards the either towards the end of this session or as qualifying continues. I'm seeing fidgets from one of the, I think that's Jarno coming out. One of the Mercs is on the move. It is indeed. It's Jarno Opmeer has a broken covered foot. Oh, no, beg your pardon. Someone's beaten it. It's Carter Lundy, the Canadian, is out there in the Haas on the inter tyres. So it looks like people are trying to save their soft tyres for the quick runs.
Yeah, which obviously makes sense, trying to save those tyres for later on. Although, like you said, if we do end up seeing some rain in qualifying, I wonder whether they are going to wish that they'd kept a set of the intermediates. But Carter Lundy reserving tonight. He was a reserve driver last week. Didn't quite go well for him in either of the races, so yet to score any points. He'll be hoping for something a bit better. And I did notice earlier on, just in the chat that the drivers use on the Discord, he was already looking at a few different lines that you could take in the pit lane, trying to see just how much you can get away with. I mean, we've already spoken about it. When there's a 2/10 of a second, sometimes between the entire top 10, sometimes nearly between the entire grid, finding those, marginal gains could be all important in qualifying, and especially in a race where strategy is probably going to be extremely important.
Very true indeed. Carter Lundy now coming through turn 16 onto the back straight. It still looks pretty dry out there, so the Inters won't last long. A very curious decision from Simon Perroni to actually run the full wet tyre, but hey-ho, he's obviously banking on not needing them again. Now, as a reminder, we don't know what the weather is. Unless somebody tells us what weather is coming up, we have genuinely no idea what is ahead. So you would assume that again, assuming a lobby reset happens in between quali and race, then the tyre allocations aren't exactly the same as what you would get used to in the real world, as Carter Lundy in the Haas begins his first time lap.
Yeah, his first time lap, made it nice and calmly through the first couple of corners, just heading through this tight S section at the moment. You've got to be They've got to be careful through here, especially obviously in a modern Formula 1 car. They won't have driven this on earlier games, but you've got to be more gentle on the curves, and even more gentle than you were able to be on previous ones as he now heads his way round turn number 7 and 8 there. DRS will be open partway down this straight, and this is where you would expect to see quite a lot of overtaking around this circuit. DRS open on the back of that Haas through the long sweeping turn number 10, spotting your break point towards number 11. And if you get a move done here, it isn't often finished until we get all the way around turn number 12, that curve just painted on. So you can get away with taking a lot of it, likewise through turn number 13, and then one of the fiddliest sections on the game, 14 and 15, where Carter invalidates, but you've actually seen him use third gear around there. He wouldn't have been able to do that pre-patch. If he'd have tried, he'd have probably been facing in the wrong direction. Now, this long back straight here at Miami, again, a fantastic opportunity to get some overtakes done. Sticking outside of the DRS trains is going to be oh so important as we go past the lovely WOR graphics on the side of the circuit provided by Josh Merrin through turn number 17. Be careful through 18 as Carter Lundy does indeed make his way into the pits, but there are quite a lot of curves around here that are just painted on that you can afford to hit over. There's a lot of tough curves as well. That chicane that Simon Perronier has just made his way through. If you get that wrong, you could easily whack the bottom of the floor on the car and you end up spinning around facing the wrong direction. I've seen it happen on multiple occasions.
Indeed, it's also the place where most laps will be invalidated. It'll be where most track limit penalties will be incurred. That's little chicane area 14 to 15. It is very, very difficult to get that right, as Carter Lundy's left the session. It didn't go that bad, Carter. You are allowed to come back. Assuming he's had a technical trouble, at least his car is back in the pits where it's not going to cause any trouble from there. Who else can we have a look at? Daniele Haddad is just coming down towards turn 17 now in the Williams for his maiden flight here at Miami. And the cars get very, very squiggly coming out of 17. It's difficult to get the power down, especially with inter tyres on a bone dry track. But you'll tend to see a lot of wheel spinning coming out of turn 17 because the amount of torque these cars have, of course, is absolutely astronomical. The amount of horses trying to get out through the rear wheels is pretty extreme, and they're accelerating from comparatively almost standstill at turn 17. So you will generally find a lot of wheel spinning going on there. Who is next coming over the line? It is going to be, it's Ika Baena, but he's not on a time lap. Right behind him is Jake Benham, is it? No, it's Diano, who's done his time lap on the Inters. Who is next? Sam Bean? Yes, Samuel Bean is next in the Alpine. What can he get on the board then? Into the aforementioned 17. Bit of a lockup coming into the turn. Nothing unusual as Primoz Miklavčić gets a 30.5 on the board. No time for Sam as he brings his car screeching into the pit lane as Jake Benham puts the Mercedes 1-2 at the moment with only 4 times on the board. That is, of course, going to change rather a lot as the session continues. A 130.1 on the intermediate tyres.
Yeah, not bad at all, that lap on the intermediate tyres, I should say. And just to give you a clue just how good those lap times are and how those things kind of compare to what we saw in real life. Pole position in real life was a 128.796. The race lap record was 1.2 seconds slower than what Jake Benham is doing. So it might have been on a set on the intermediate tyres. There's still, I reckon, a lot of people out there that wouldn't mind that lap too much if they'd managed to do it on a set of the slick tyres. But this is the way things go now. We're used to seeing this. We're used to seeing everyone coming out there just doing their laps on the intermediates and then waiting for the final few minutes. And especially if you can get your run done in Q1 only using one set of tyres, that does put you in a big advantage into Q2, and especially if you get through into Q3.
Indeed it does, as Ika Baena, the Spaniard, is now screaming down the back straight. I will say back straight. I use that phrase for both straights, so there's no front straight according to my head. Again, locking up into turn 17. And what can the Spaniard get on the board? It's a pit lane entry is what he gets on the board. So, no time from him. Fairly cautious set of laps going on there. That's Jake that is coming into the pits. That will leave us with absolutely nobody to talk about because all 20 cars are in the pit lane. Oh no, as soon as I said that, one of the Haas is broken cover. Who is that? Is that Stowlek? No, it is... Is it Stowlek?
It's Lundy.
No, it must be Carter Lundy. It's Carter Lundy that's back out on track again, this time on a set of softs.
Yeah, Carter Lundy on that set of soft tyres. Clearly, he's had a quick little break with his internet connection. This is what happens if you're trying to stream the Women's Euros final at the same time as watching the WOR. And we're so glad to everyone that has chosen this, although I imagine there's quite a few of you in the chat who are multitasking at the moment, but the drivers, they can't afford to do with that. They have got to be full focus, and this lap from Lundy will obviously be the first sort of benchmark that we're going to see to get us through into this part of qualifying times. Round about the 127, 126 is what you're going to see throughout this session, probably from all 20 of the drivers. Things are going to be incredibly close, and just one slight lock-up, one tiny little mistake, as we've already said, can make all of the difference. And this section of the circuit, it reminds me of the castle section a bit, just without any walls at Azerbaijan. It is extremely narrow, and I have seen numerous drivers coming through that chicane there at 14 and 15, just hop over it completely and get an instant 3-second time penalty.
Yes, I saw quite a lot of that as well. And sometimes they're forced into that particular line. So, if you see that straight 3-second corner cutting penalty, you can expect that to be at least reviewed, assuming the drivers do so. Now, most drivers are coming back out onto track. It is just, I think, Tom Manley's the oh no, beg your pardon, it's Samuel Bean. It's the only one that hasn't moved. As Carter Lundy now starts his first soft tyre run. Coming through, so let's run through the lap then with him. 1 and 2. You just need to moderate the throttle a little bit now. Flat out through 3. Over to the right-hand side, following the line of the circuit. Now throw it through 4, just a little bit of a lift there. And then you're starting to decelerate a little bit, kind of Mackers and Beckett in that feel on how 4, 5, and 6 are. Now the long turn 7, then switches into turn 8. Bit of a wheel spin as he's caught the apex on the inside line coming through turn 8. Now it's a scream all the way through. Turn 9, turn 10, you pretty much ignore them, just hugging the contour of the inside line of the circuit. Now wander over to the right-hand side, heavy on the brakes for turn 11. You'll see a fair amount of scrapping going on there. And yeah, that's one of the zones I think is going to be very hot for overtaking. Now we're into 14, 15. Ride the curbs as much as you dare. Car gets a little bit unsteady, so you try and power up the hill a little bit. Oh, people need to work. Be careful. Somebody coming through. Who's that? Get out of the way. There we go. So screaming down the straight then is the Haas, using all the battery that he can. And everybody is doing a good job of getting out of the way. Someone just went through that final corner. Again, a bit of a lock-up, but that's nothing unusual. Down the 4th gear, then lighting up the rear tyres to screen towards the line. What's the first soft time? It's a 26.6 for Carter Lundy. I'm going to hazard a guess that we aren't going to see more than 7/10 top to bottom in this field. We'll see if I'm anywhere near right.
I think you could be spot on with that, and I think that 26.6 is going to be there or thereabouts for getting you through to the next part of qualifying. That is a very decent first lap there by Carter Lundy. We'll see what his teammate Peter Stakalek is doing. Also managed to get his first point of the season last time around, as Lucas Blakely goes fastest on a 126.4. Stakalek heading towards the line in the Haas, 126.717. So we are sort of seeing times there or thereabouts at the moment. Joost Noordijk just a tiny bit off. We've got one of the Aston Martins heading towards the end of the track. We've got a pair of Simons tonight, Magon and Perrinier in the shadow of the Hard Rock Stadium there in the background. Perrinier round the final corner, gets himself into 6th on a 126.8. One of the Ferraris, this will be Primoz Miklavčić heading towards the line. He gets himself up in towards 8th place in the end. We've got a Mercedes, we're heading towards the end. Jarno Opmeer, what can he do? Reigning esports champion. As we've said, he's not really found the game quite to his liking yet, but I still wouldn't write him off. You'd be a brave person to do that, and that is why he slots himself in towards 3rd place, just a 1,000th of a second behind Caraton. As we've seen all season, though, Blakely right off the pace from the first lap in qualifying.
Yes, indeed. More laps getting on the board. I'm riding on board with Louis Welch in the 2nd Ferrari. Just coming through the last couple of turns then. What can he do? Still just 4 drivers yet to get a time on the board. Louis, a 27.5, so not a good time, comparatively speaking, for the Ferrari. Next one was Tom Manley up into 2nd place. Great effort there. Next up is going to be Sam Bean, I believe. Where is he? No, he's just starting his lap. He was actually very late leaving the pit. Jack West has he invalidated his lap in the AlphaTauri. We'll see if he goes again, as Carter Lundy is now back in the pit lane.
Yeah, most of the drivers have obviously been out there for their first run at the moment. And it's going pretty well at the moment. I think we're all enjoying ourselves. Lucas Blakely, fastest of everyone. Tom Manley in 2nd place. Now, Tom, he's shown some serious pace. Shadow is what a lot of the regular runners of and watchers of the Xbox League might remember him as. Now part of Parnell Racing, and has done a fantastic job. Didn't go well for him in the race, but got points in the sprint last week, so perhaps not too surprising to see him up there in 2nd place at the moment. Ika Baena, he's on a in-lap. He's coming back into the pit, so we'll see whether Jack West is going for a 2nd hot run at the moment. Looks like he is doing. He might have just been able to save himself a decent amount of ERS and get a 2nd run in. And that's the thing about this circuit, about a lot of circuits. We saw on the previous F1 game, on 2021, that you could get away with doing 2 push laps in a row. There's no way, there's no chance at all you're going to have enough ERS to do that on this game. So if a lap is going bad, you're better to bail out early on rather than just keep pushing towards the end to have to go again later. And it looks like on this occasion, Jack West actually has bailed, not using his ERS, that red light flashing at the back of the car. So he'll be back into the pit. He's down in the danger zone at the moment with being Welch, Miklavčić and Baena.
Confident man Lucas Blakely is retired from the session as Sam Bean has come into the pit as well. Carrison also retiring from the session. I was going to say, we haven't got any rain out there, have we? No, I know the cloud is threatening. As Tom Manley, so our top three, excuse me, have retired from the session. They felt that enough is enough on the times they have done. Both Haas have now come out, Carter Lundy and Piotr Stahulek, along with one of the McLarens. Well, there's only one of them left, that's Ruben Pedreño. And one of the Ferraris has broken cover as well. That is Miklavčić. That is now on the way to rejoin the circuit. So again, we're not seeing a particular lull in proceedings. We are in the final 3 minutes, what I call the banzai phase of qualifying. So the first 5 victims of the time are going to be set. So at the moment, we're looking at Ika Baena, Primož, Miklavčić, Louis Welch, Jack West and Sam Bean are going to be falling out the first hurdle if the times do not change. But I would imagine that we are going to see another mad flurry of laps as those that aren't quite as confident on their time also look to strap on another fresh set of softs and go again around the streets of Miami.
Yeah, going for that final one. Like you said, the banzai zone. This is it now. It's now or never. This is where the chips are down. And you really do earn your money. Jarno Opmy is deciding, well, he's undecided at the moment. He doesn't know whether to retire from the session. He doesn't know whether to head out there for another lap. But him and Jake Benham are going to have to make their mind up pretty soon. I think if I was Benham, I'd be heading out there. Wouldn't feel the most confident on that 126.691. It is only the 2 Mercedes and the top 3 that are still in the pit. Everyone else out there on track at the moment. Everyone else trying to see and trying to find themselves a bit of space as well. Get into the final 15 in this qualifying session. But here comes Stahulek on the pitch straight, heading towards turn number 1, where we obviously saw Vettel and Schumacher coming together in what was not the greatest sporting moment for the Germans, and they're not having the greatest of sporting moments right now in the football. For anyone who wants a quick update on that, it is 2-1 to England as things stand with about 5 minutes to go. Stahulek, though, making his way nice and calmly through this S section here in towards number 7 and 8, and this, I imagine it's a really tricky corner, not quite as difficult as Barvet 9 and 10, but you've got to scrub the speed off, you've got to get a tight apex without obviously locking up those tyres.
Absolutely, purple sector 1 for Stahulek. Also, another thing that the drivers will have to bear in mind is ERS management. You don't have, even though there are some heavy braking zones here, there's a lot of really short, sharp bits that either don't really need a lot of braking at all or very, very little. So harvesting energy is actually proving very, very difficult. So ERS management is going to be very, very crucial for the drivers as Stahulek is 1.5 tenths up. So he's looking at potentially around about Jarno Opmy's time, who cannot, well, he can leave the pits, but he won't have time to set another lap as Sam Bean has just started another lap. So the Mercedes cannot improve. But Stahulek certainly can as he comes through the last couple of turns. What can he do? 126.717 is time. What can he get on the board? It is not an improvement for him. What about his teammate right behind? Nope, he's straight into the pits. Who is next? One of the Ferraris is coming around. That is Miklavčić is next to set a time onto the board. What can he do? 127.268. His previous best to see him is 17th, and that's only 16th, and a big wiggle of the wheel in frustration for Miklavčić. He is not going any further. Baena has retired from the session. He can do no more, and he will be out of qualifying. So what about the others? What about Louis Welch? He's on the final straight, along with Jack West. Sam Bean is just coming into turns into the twisties. And coming up to turn 16, what can Jack West do? He's the next one in danger, coming over the line in the AlphaTauri. Can he improve? No time on the board for him just yet. It's 13th, the 126.805 pushes Liam Parnell into the drop zone. What about Louis Welch? Can he improve? He cannot. No improvement in time for him. Sam Bean, I think it's next. No, Liam Parnell invalidated his time. No, Simon Perroni, beg your pardon. So Liam Parnell did improve. That pushes Simon Perroni out of the drop zone after he'd invalidated that. Sam Bean could not rise out of the drop zone, and that is your lot. So I think Daniele Haddad, no, he's bailed and he invalidated it anyway. So he's come in, and that is your first qualifying session over and done with. Wasn't quite there with 8. Well, if you ignore Louis Welch's time, I was actually there with 8 tenths top to bottom.
Yeah, I was expecting to see a few more improvements in that session. I mean, Pedreño, he was only 11th, was the young Spaniard, Ruben Pedreño, going into the final runs. Didn't get an improvement in, but he has just stuck his way through into that session. Will Lewis setting a fantastic lap towards the end, reserving in the Alpine tonight to get himself up into second place. But you can see there, Simon Perigny, Sam Jorbin, Primoz Miklevčić, Eka Baena, and Louis Welsh down there in 20th place. Definitely not a good day on the game or in reality if you are a Ferrari fan. But Blakely, again, you know, one and done for the Scotsman. Gets that lap in straight away, and a fantastic time from him. And we did see improvements towards the end. I mean, Will Lewis and Joost Noordijk both looked like they might be in a bit of trouble after their first laps, and both got themselves up into the top 5.
You're going to be pushing the lower end of 26s by the time we hit the end of Q3, unless, of course, the wet weather arrives, which the sky is definitely threatening. So it's going to be interesting. So as a reminder, Lucas Blakely topping that particular session with Will Lewis right behind him. Then is Manley, Noordijk, Weigand, Carrington, Opmeer, Adowu, Lundy, Benham, Stowlek, Haddad, West, Parnell, and Pedreño all proceeding. We lose Simon Perigny, we lose Sam Bean, we lose Primoz Miklevčić, we lose Eka Baena, and we lose Louis Welch from the sessions of both Ferraris, one Aston, one Alpine, and one Alpha. So both Ferraris and everyone beginning with A almost, or everyone's team name beginning with A.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it was pretty much what we expected there. You know, some of the drivers that, you know, no offence to them, but we've seen Welsh down there at the bottom so far this season, clearly getting used to the game on the pad, proving to be a hard thing for him at the moment. And it was extremely close. I mean, Perigny in the Aston Martin just over 0.4 of a second off of the fastest time in that session, and it's a good night Vienna and good goodbye for his qualifying.
Absolutely so. So as we proceed straight into Q2, look skywards. What's the sky doing? Is it leaking? Not yet. It is still overcast. And I'm assuming everyone... Well, we see a smattering of intermediate tyres. Tends not to happen in Q2, but you might see a few runs on the Inters. Depends if they feel like they're going to need them as the session continues. And, we've got quite a few people breaking cover already in the first 30 seconds. So people are keen to get out there and get on with it. I wonder if this is an indication that they think, or they're told, that the wet weather is coming later this session, as Pietro Stowlek is the first man out.
Yeah, this will be very interesting indeed, especially if we're seeing everyone setting quick times. Normally, you know, at this point, drivers are doing a run on an older set of tyres. I'm just trying to look from Jack West. Say, can't really tell too much whether they're, you know, used at the moment, but we'll obviously be able to see from the first few lap times. So 15 minutes this time, top 10 drivers go through, and all you've got to do to get into that top 10, it doesn't matter if you're first or 10th. That has no bearing on any of the future sessions. So it might have been a fantastic lap time last time from Blakely. Unless he sets an equally good lap time on this occasion, that will matter for naught. But yeah, a lot of drivers heading out there straight away. We don't normally see this. Q2 quite often can be a slow burner in the similar vein of Q1, but a lot of drivers either wanted to get out there for a bit more practice, or, like you said, Chris, the rain could be coming. It still looks awkward out there. It looks like it did at the Hungarian Grand Prix earlier on today. It's not raining at the moment, but if it threw it down in 5 minutes, you wouldn't be surprised.
Absolutely so. I think you're right on both counts there, Luke. Just people maximising their track time because of the lack of familiarity with this circuit. I think you're absolutely spot on there. The only man not to move is Josh Adowu. So the former McLaren man is deciding to sit still for the time being. As I thought it was Stowlek that was first down track. It's not. It's his Canadian counterpart, Alf Lundy, who now begins his first lap of Q2. So 26.4 was the benchmark that Lucas Blakely threw down. What are we going to see this time? I think we're going to be probably pushing into or near the 26.2s by the end of this session.
Yeah, certainly. I think you are going to need probably around about 26.5, maybe a low 26.6. If you're lucky, might get you through to the next part. Again, this could all depend on what the weather does in this session, but Carter Lundy, he is making his way around that long turn number 7 into number 8, just getting that little bit of wheel spin on the curb as the car struggles to get that tiny bit of traction, and now you've just got to get as close to the walls as you possibly can down this straight. Now, heading into this turn, we've seen moves down the inside, we've seen moves down the outside, we've seen quite a few moves that haven't quite come off to plan, and you do keep it tight around 12 as well, sticking to that right-hand side, and then into the twisty, tight section under the overpasses, under the bridges here. of the intersections. But Lundy doing a nice job at the moment. Just behind him, Daniele Haddad having a bit of a correction. Coming out of turn number 16, he's heading down the straight. Of course, now driving for Williams. Seeing that new lineup, we've got the Aston Martins with Simon Weigang. Other drivers that I'm sure will be announced and have been announced already. That we'll see driving for the Aston Martin squad this time around in esports. But what can Daniele Haddad do on his first one? We'll see what Carter Lundy's time is as Haddad heads straight into the pits. And Lundy with a 1:26.911. That says to me he's out there on an older set of tyres.
I think you're right. A 27.4 for Jack West, a 27.2. So I think everybody is doing their first laps on scrub softs. Judging by this, Will Lewis, a 27.2. Bearing in mind he was up in second with a 20. He was the only other one on a 26.4 last time around. So it could be the track is a little bit cooler, so it's not yielding quite as much grip. But this all screams used tyres. 26.9 for Jarno Opmeer, 26 flat for Pedreño, 26.1 for Weigang. More laps still coming in. Another one coming over. Tom Manley, 1:27.1. Joost Noordijk is next, is he? No, he's decided to come into the pit. I think Jake Benham is the only one that says, no, he's invalidated. So that's your first wave of laps done. So everyone is saving those fresh tyres for later.
Yeah, everyone's just getting a bit of a feel for the track on the used tyres, whether they'll be needing them later on or not. But Benham heads into the pits. Lundy fastest of everyone on the used tyres. Opmeer in second. Pedreño, Weigang, Manley, Stekelek, Lewis, Parnell, West. 4.5 minutes gone. Those times matter for absolutely nothing. They will be beaten by everyone once they head out there on a fresh set of tyres. And Josh Adowu just trying something different. Just obviously going out a bit later, making sure that he's not stuck in any traffic. And a 29.7 is a very decent first sector indeed. I've seen Adowu do this before. I wonder if he's just heading straight out there, you know, right off the off on a fresh set of tyres and trying to relieve the stress of needing to leave it until the last run.
Could well be. Not everybody works well under the pressure of having to do the last second run and grab it, but also he doesn't benefit from any kind of slipstream whatsoever. Although generally in qualifying, people tend to get out of the way. They don't like giving their opponents any kind of advantage. Slipstream is quite difficult to gain here. Along this straight where Josh currently is, yes, that's the easiest place to do it. And of course, the back straight isn't straight in the slightest. So it's as straight as I am thin. So that gives you an idea on that one. So Josh now coming through the final couple of corners. Does he continue? Yes, he does. What does he get on the board? He was purple 1 and 2. Is he going to be purple 3? That's a 26.4. That's a bit more like it. So again, that would indicate it was a fresh set of soft tyres. It goes to show you just how much fresh rubber can really give you.
Yeah, certainly. I think, again, that time he's going to be there or thereabouts at the end of the session. But a very good lap there from Josh Adowu. That curve coming out of turn number 16 through 17. We've seen it catch out drivers completely before we've seen them go spinning round there. And Adowu had to just, you know, get off the throttle a tiny bit. So whether that cost him a few hundredths of a second or whether that few hundredths of a second will be costly later on, we'll have to see from the Welshman. But he is fastest at the moment. Carter Lundy second. Opmeer in third. We have got other drivers out there. All the bottom 5 that have yet to settle up on an old set of tyres are out there now. So are the likes of Jake Benham, Joost Noordijk, Alvaro Carreton, Lucas Blakely and Daniele Haddad going for it straight away. I imagine Blakely will almost certainly just try and do what he did in Q1, try and do what he's done in every qualifying session so far, get that one lap in, get the time done, and then just sit back, relax, and interact with your Twitch chat for a few minutes. Living a pretty chilled life is Lucas in these qualifying sessions.
He's got the pace to back that up, hasn't he? So he's riding high at the moment, is the young Scotsman. So we'll see what he's able to do through this through this outlap. He's not obviously going to be doing too much. I think Joost, Alvaro, and Haddad are out there on time laps at the moment. Haddad has just started his lap. Joost is in the same position. Actually, Alvaro is the lead of the 3 cars that are currently on a hot lap, so I'm going to keep an eye on him as it's purple sector 1 for the Williams, or one of the Williams, because both Williams are still in the session. Keep up, Buxton, for God's sake. Alvaro Carreton then screaming down towards turn 11 into the twisties, and we'll see what he is able to do when he gets through to the end of the lap. But it's not looking too bad. But it's often difficult to judge the performance because one tiny mistake can as I said earlier, catapult you miles down the field. So it's going to be some time before we see the very top times yet.
Yeah, he's similar time through the first sector as what we saw from Josh Adowu earlier. So he's, again, it's going to be there or thereabouts for Alvaro Cavaton. Put on a fantastic performance in the championship season last year. Was obviously up there in the battle right until the very last, alongside Longuet and Pavadcic, with the Frenchmen eventually coming out on top. It was 2 6th places last week for Cavaton in the sprint in the main race. He's fastest in Q2 at the moment, 1:26.230. Should comfortably see the Williams man through in this session. Joost Noordijk, 1:27.1 is, I think, almost certainly not going to be good enough. Daniele Haddad has invalidated on his lap. And what is Lucas Blakely doing? He was a bit quicker than what we saw from Cavaton Adowu through Sector 1. So again, the Flying Scotsman doing a superb job. And I was just trying to look on my screen then to see whether I saw a bit of rain or whether I was imagining things out there. I think I was just imagining it. But Blakely heading down this long back straight now, and I'm a bit like you, Chris. I do call them both back straights, even though one of them's not really at the back of the circuit and is almost certainly not straight. But Blakely, as he makes his way through turn number 17, locking up that inside front left, does not matter whatsoever. Still comfortably gets his way to the apex, short shifting through the gears for the best traction. And what time's this going to be for Blakely? Not fastest on this occasion, but I think a 1:26.339 should still see him through.
I would imagine so. Will Lewis also in the 26.3s right behind him. Several people still on a time lap. Haddad, the only person yet to get a time on the board. He's just coming through. Fans at 12 and 13 now. Oh, it's a spin! Oh, no, for the Italian. A reset to track. Naughty, but there's no one anywhere near him, so he'll get away with that one. Oh, just pushing that tiny bit too hard. The tyres look at him and said, "Are you having a laugh, sir?" And around he went. Tom Manley's just got a time on the board in the Red Bull. Another 26.3 on the board with a storming effort from Alvaro Cavaton into the 26.2s. That's what I thought we'd see in this session. Maybe even into the 26.1s, but I think those all-conquering laps we'll see in Q3.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you know, as well, Stakelek and Will Lewis, 1:26.3. Fantastic laps from them. Jarno Ottmeyer also getting into the 1:26.3. His fans will be delighted with that. Reigang, 7th. Carter Lundy in 8th. And all of a sudden, that time from Josh Adowu that we said might just about make his way through. He's in 9th place at the moment. And with Haddad yet to set a tie, we've not seen the best from Noordijk, Parnell and Jack West. We've not seen anything from Daniele Haddad. We thankfully just caught the tail end of that spin on stream. Who knows? He might have to go out again here, could the Welshman. But it is Cavaton fastest at the moment. Manley 2nd, Blakely 3rd, and Stakelek 4th. Will Lewis in 5th. Jarno Ottmeyer 6th. Would not surprise me if we see those drivers all retire from the session. Although Jarno might be feeling a bit more awkward. Not because of the time, just because he's not got too many cars further behind him. And things getting very quiet out there all of a sudden. Everyone either in the pits or making their way back towards the pits in this Q2 session. Pedreño, Noordijk, Parnell, West and Haddad. They're the drivers who need to find something in the final 3 minutes, 40 seconds if they're to get into the top 10.
2 tenths separate the top 10. Absolutely unreal. I say this so many times when I get the great pleasure of talking about the very, very greats of our beloved esports, that I'm always amazed at how close the gaps are. And I've said this for years, and it still amazes me just how close they are. So Carrington and Manley have retired their cars. I think that's fair. I don't think they're going to be dropped far enough to be worried. I'd be stunned if they are. But anything is possible. Daniele Haddad is straight back out there in the Williams as we are now getting towards the Banzai phase. And now begins 3 minutes left on the clock. And of course, with a 1.5 minute lap, it's that people have time to think about how to readjust what they're doing, try and figure out where they're losing those precious few hundredths in this case to try and make all the difference. And out comes Jack West and Carter Lundy on track as well. We've got one of the McLarens, I suspect. Oh, it's Lucas Blakely. I didn't expect him to come back out. I thought he'd be comfortable. Benham has also followed suit. Pretty much, essentially everybody who hasn't retired is coming back out. I'm a little surprised to see Lucas back out on there. Perhaps this is a bit of practice. I doubt he feels pressured, but then we'll see. I mean, if that 26.3 suddenly becomes in danger of being into the bottom 10, bottom 5 rather, that one highlights just how close this field is, as everybody is on a hot lap, except for the 3 cars that are retired, of course. But again, if Lucas Blakely's time gets into pressure, that's going to make Stakelek worry about it, because of course he's already retired his car.
Yeah, Stakelek's going to be feeling pretty nervous now. Is the young Haas driver down? Well, I say down. He's in 4th place, but he's still behind Blakely, and Blakely's clearly felt the need to get out there. Whether he's going to bail after the out lap, whether he'll bail after his hot lap, we'll just have to wait and see at the moment. But it is Haddad out there on a flyer, making his way through these S's. Let's see what the Italian can do. Can he make an impression in his Williams? First race this season. We've seen Haddad. Can he get himself in towards the top 10, making his way around 7 and 8? The game lets you take a lot of curb at that part of the circuit. And a 29.701, tiny bit faster than what we saw from Adobe earlier on. So there's definitely got a chance of getting Haddad up there at the moment as he makes his way through 9 and 10. Those flat out corners. It's all about spotting the breaking point for 11. It's all about making sure we've got a nice little run over the curbs through the chicane as well, and definitely not like you did on the last occasion. And that Williams again looking very nervous on the rear of the car, and he's invalidated his lap. Now, you might be able to save a bit of ERS. He's going to be pretty close for this, is Daniele Haddad, but that Williams does not look planted at all.
That looked really uncomfortable, as you say, in that section. And that is, that's where you need the car to behave itself, because the walls are waiting with open arms. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It looks like Haddad is dragging the brakes to get some energy back into that. Well, I can see from the telemetry he's dragging his brakes to get some energy back into the tank to have another go. He's got about 75% in the battery. He looks like he's going to go again. The fuel warning light is not on, so he does have enough to have another go in the Williams, and indeed, away he goes to see what he can do. But he's taken the absolute best out of those tyres. That's going to put even more pressure on him to try and get out of the bottom 5. The checkered flag is out. Who is first over the line? It's Jack West. That's only 11th to a 26.552. A shake of frustration from him as he comes over the line. He cannot improve. Carter Lundy is back into the pit. He's only 8th, so that's a bit of a risk for him. Who's next? It's Blakely. Oh, of course it is. A 26.1 from the Scotsman to reassert his dominance up top. What about Benham? That's third at 26.266 for the Mercedes. Is it enough? We will see. Joost Noordijk is next. He cannot improve. A 26.1 sees him out of this session. Oh my goodness me, who's next? I think Willows went back into the pits. Any more times coming onto the board? Several people crossing the line. Parnell cannot get out of the bottom 5. So the only one that can now is Pedreño. And Pedreño has hit the wall. There's a very significant bit of your car missing as Otmere has trumped the Scotsman to the top spot. And Ruben Pedreño has deposited his nose somewhere as the wounded McLaren comes back into the pits. So it is West, Pedreño, Parnell, Noordijk and Haddad that will take no further part in the qualifying.
Yeah, certainly. And, Pedreño, we saw him lose that front wing earlier on the circuit. He lost that, quite early on around the track. Around about Sector 1, I noticed the yellow flag and went to the McLaren, and he had no front wing. So, yeah, Pedreño losing that front wing quite early on, maybe just a bit too greedy coming out of turn number 1 and 2. He is out of the session. And again, there weren't loads of improvements toward the end of the session. There certainly was at the top end of the order, with Jarno Otmere going fastest, Lucas Blakely in second place. Cavaton, Benham, Manley, Stakelek, Lewis, Vagang, Lundy and Adowu will be the rest of the drivers getting through in towards the top 10. And losing out in that qualified session were Jack West, Ruben Pedreño, Liam Parnell, Joost Noordijk and Daniele Haddad. 12 minutes of qualifying 3 coming right up to decide the top 10 after this short advert from our sponsors. Well then, that was a exciting part of qualifying, wasn't it? We're into the top 3 now, 12 minutes to go, and we'll wait and see what happens in this session. We were just saying, as the advert was happening, Jarno there, people write him off at times. Yes, he's not had the easiest start to this game, but he did win one of the social races. He's done fantastically well in other leagues, and that's the first time we've seen him this season, though. Up there towards the top. Could he be involved in the battle for pole? Could we, as you mentioned, see a 125?
Well, that's the thing, is that the best I've seen this week has been 26 flats, so we'll see if anybody is able to do it, and let's face it, any one of these guys could do it. They could be the first to break the 26. As somebody's out, it's Josh Adobu is again immediately on the case. Those clouds are still looming, but still no sign of wet weather so far. I would think we are going to see 26 flats. Will we see the 25 nines creep in? Like I say, if anybody can, you're kind of looking at Blakely and Opmere to be the ones, or the first ones to actually manage it. But at the moment, curiously, it's only Adowu that's come out to play.
Yeah, certainly Adowu, the only one out on track at the moment. Everyone else quite happy to just stay in the pit lane. One of the Hatters is coming out there. We've seen, normally it's been Carter Lundy who's liked a bit of an earlier run out on the session, and I knew as soon as I say that it would come up with Peter Stakelek heading out there on his outlap. But everyone else, I think obviously because we saw so many drivers use two sets in Q1 and 2 sets in Q2, that there's not many out there who are going to have multiple fresh sets of tyres. So again, these first runs, you're going to be out there on the older set of the soft tyres, just getting a bit of a feel for the track. And then all the ones coming later on. As if you're wondering why the barriers are WOR branded, that is all thanks to Josh Merrin, who's done some magical wonderness in the background. Everyone on stream there just seeing the grid finder and the WOR logos. As Josh Adowu just trying to get some heat into what are likely to be older soft tyres, and getting ready to start the lap in the session. Let us know in the chat who is going to be on pole position. Blakely was fastest in the first part. Opmere was fastest in the second. Will it be one of those two? And if it's not going to be one of those two, Chris, who do we think could pick a surprise? Manley? Lewis?
I would think it would be one of those two, judging by the form we've seen thus far. No disrespect meant to the rest of the top 10 here, but it has been Manley and Lewis that have been towards the top end of this particular group, outside of Blakely and Opmere. So, yeah, I would look to one of those two to actually do it. We will see, though, as most people to come back out. Just Carrington, Vigang and Opmere yet to leave the sanctity of but no, Opmere has just come out. So just 2 cars yet to leave the pit lane, as Adowu locking up coming into turn 11. Again, kind of reinforcing that is probably a worn set of tyres that he is. Oh, scrub set of tyres. It's not down to nothing, of course. But it's invalid. It's that dreaded curb coming through 14 and 15 that's denied him yet again.
Yeah, it's we've seen obviously Haddad get it wrong through that sector, but yeah, coming through 14 and 15, Adowu just not really able to get the car turning in quite the way that he would have wanted. So he has invalidated this lap time. He may well carry on towards the end just to get a bit of a delta time up on the screen, just to have that target for later on, and decides that is not worth it, and decides that he is going to head out there straight back into the pit. So Adowu failing to set a time. Stakelek's kept it clean so far on a 29.737. Again, is a fairly representative lap time to what we were seeing earlier on. So this could be a very good lap from the Hassman, making his way through the tight and twisty 14, 15 and 16 onto the back straight. And he's got one of the Mercedes drivers behind him. That will be, I believe, Jarno Opmere, who's on an outlap at the moment. Up here to Stakelek, making his way into the hairpin, in towards turn number 17. We're seeing pretty much everyone lock the front left through that corner, but it has no effect on the performance of the car. Stakelek towards the line, our first benchmark. And what a benchmark that is. 126, 185. I said maybe we could see Manley and Lewis getting up there. Stakelek's just shown why we shouldn't write him off.
Well, if he's done that on scrub sets, I want to know how the hell he's managed that. But yeah, that's a storming effort for the opening salvo of this session. He had less than 25% of the battery and obviously a completely empty fuel tank. So that just goes to show how much ERS you use in a single lap if you just absolutely burn the battery down to nothing. The only car in the pits was the first man out of it at the beginning of the session. Benham with a 26.3. So it's Josh Adowu yet to lead the pit lane for another run. There's a good run there from Benham. That 26.3 could indeed see him towards the tail end of the top 10, because it was a 26.4 a mid 26 floor that was the cutoff point for Q2. So you would expect that 26.3 to be more likely at the lower end of this particular group, which sounds absolutely nuts to say that. Here comes Blakely in the McLaren. What can he get on the board? What's his opening salvo? I told you you'd see a 26 flat, and there it is. Blakely was the first man to do it. But will we see a sub 26? I'm sure there are people in chat screaming, yes, people have done a 114.2 or something ridiculous. But yeah, we will see what they can do in qualifying trim. Here comes Opmir. Here's the champion. What can he do? Over the line. And it's a 26 flat by 8 thousandths of a second ahead of what is pole position tennis going on between the Dutchman and the Scotsman.
Pole ping pong between Opmir and Blakely at the moment. And why do we write off a man in a Mercedes in a yellow helmet? And why did we forget about Alvaro Cavaton going fastest of everyone? 126.045 at the moment. 44 thousandths of a second separated our top three. Every single one of them getting on a 126.0, and every single one of them, I imagine, judging by, well, I know Lucas has, and it wouldn't surprise me if Alvaro has, and possibly even Jarno has got another fresh set of tyres for this final part of qualifying because of how easily they got through Q1 or Q2. But it is Cavaton, Opmir, Blakely, Manley in 4th, Stakalek in 5th, Benham with a good time in 6th place as well. Weigang, Lundy, Lewis and Idowu yet to set a time after that earlier run. So, 5 minutes to go in this session. Everyone's just making their way back towards the pits. Cavaton has got that advantage, and it's looking mightily close. The names that we're expecting to be up there towards the top are there up again. But Manley and Stakalek don't need to find too much. If they've got another fresh set of tyres, they could easily, just a bit later on the brakes, just getting the car rotated a tiny bit more. They might find themselves up there as well. It's gonna be a challenge. But these drivers are used to challenges. This is why they're the best of the best.
Yeah, 100% true. But trying to find those all precious few tenths or hundredths of a second is very, very difficult. As Daniele had that rather proved in the last session, just a tiny bit of gas in the wrong place, or one is embarrassing in certain instances. But in this context, we'll see you facing the wrong way. So as everybody now works their way back into the pits, we only have 4 minutes left. So it is time to dig out the best tyres, see what's what, and just reset the mind, picture the lap in your head, and adjust how you attacked it previously to find those extra bits of time that is needed to secure the top spot.
Yeah, certainly. We'll see who can get their way up towards the top spot. I mean, we're here in Miami. New circuit in Formula 1, the 11th, I believe, used in the United States. And we're going to see the 12th next year with another one being used in Las Vegas. So we've got the poll in the chat with Jarno Opmir. I'm going to hold our own little poll in the commentary box in the chat as well. You can pick 2 more American circuits, an old one from the calendar and one that's never been on the F1 calendar. Which 2 would you pick, Mr. Chris Buxton?
Oh, American circuit specifically. One that's never been on the circuit and one that was on the circuit.
Yes.
Ooh. I always used to like Indianapolis. Of course, when the F1 cars would go the wrong way around Indy, around the Brickyard, and I was use the infield section, I used to like Indianapolis. As for one that's never been on, yeah, it's a track that could never hold F1 cars, but Willow Springs, I think Willow Springs is a great circuit. A lot of you have to think a lot of tracks have already been an F1 circuit. Going back to like Sebring. Believe it or not, Sebring was on the F1 calendar a very, very long time ago, back in the 50s and the like. So yeah, there aren't actually all that many circuits I can think of that have been on the F1 calendar at some point in history. But yeah, Willow Springs is a great track I enjoy, but it could never hold F1 machinery. But as far as ones that used to, I'd go with the Brickyard.
Yeah, Indianapolis getting a lot of love in the chat there. Watkins Glen as well. I think I think that's the problem now. America's pretty much got all the circuits that could host F1.
Watkins Glen has been on the F1 Canada before. But yeah, that's why I didn't choose that one, because it was a circuit back in the 60s. Great circuit. Yeah, Watkins Glen's a brilliant circuit. But yeah, if one were to be resurrected, I think I'd be a bit partial to Indianapolis.
I think if I was going for, resurrected, I'd go for Watkins Glen. And I think another circuit I'd love to see F1 cars go around. I'm not sure they'd actually make it round an F1 circuit, but at the corkscrew, seeing Formula 1 cars would definitely be a bit of an experience. But enough about what could happen. That's about what is happening right now then. The final laps in qualifying it is going to be Stakelek, the first man to set his final lap. So clearly also with another fresh set of tyres. He only needs to find 1400ths of a second to get himself on pole position. I say only as if it was an easy task. If it was an easy task, I'd be doing it and I wouldn't be in the commentary box round about now. Stakelek just making his way around number turn 7. Beautiful momentum held on that car through there, and he's already 4500ths up. So this could be good enough to get him ahead of Tom Manley at the moment. We're seeing a few yellow flags as cars just back off, just try to save, that little bit of fuel, get themselves that bit of space. 208 miles per hour as he heads into the braking zone, round about 332 kilometres there for Stakelek. Can he keep it nice and tidy around this part? Through 14 and 15, we've seen many cars get it wrong earlier, and that was pretty much perfect from Pieter. Heading into the Sector 2 split. What is it at the moment? You know what? He is finding that time. He only needs to find 5,000ths of a second at the moment, and we could see Stakelek take provisional pole position. Can we see anyone else get into the 25s further behind him through the final real tight braking zone here of turn number 17 for the Haas car on the throttle? Nice and cleanly using the last bit of ERS. What's it going to be for Stakelek? It's provisional pole by 3,000ths of a second. Will Lewis is improving in the background. He can only get himself up into 5th. Lucas Blakely, as long as he's not made a mistake, we're going to see a 125.
Oh, it's invalid!
And he invalidates.
It's invalid! It would have been a 25.9 if Blakely hadn't invalidated in those last few corners. Oh my goodness me! Who's next over the line? It's Opmeer. Can he defy it? No, he's got a ball, but not quite into the 25s. Struth alive. That's what, 100th of a second, first to third at the moment. Who's next? Josh Adowu in the AlphaTauri. What can he do? That's 7th with a 26.185. Weigang is next, and that's a 26.117 for the German. He can't improve. Carrington, no improvement for him. He was 19,000s down. Carlton Lundy, last car over the line, I think. And is that an improvement? It was an improvement, but in time, but not position for the Canadian. My God, that was close. So Blakely would have been into the 25s. Well, strictly speaking, was in the 25s, but it was invalidated at the last.
It was invalidated at the last, and also at the last, Jake Benham, as you just caught on the screen, steals pole position.
Wow.
126.009 from Benham. Opmeer, Stakelek, Camerton, Blakely, Lewis, all within 1/10 of a second of pole position. Couldn't quite do it. Weigang in 7th, Tom Manley in 8th, Josh Adowu in 9th, Carter Lundy, the only one in that top 10 outside of 2/10 off a pole position. Absolutely crazy scenes. And Benham, I agree. Where did that come from? At the end, it was there or thereabouts, but, clutched it right at the death.
Take a bow, Jake Benham. That was a stunner. So it's a Mercedes front row as we head into the race of Miami. Wow. Again, I mean no disrespect to any of these drivers taking part in this tier, either as main or as reserve. They're all the very best. But there are, of course, some names you expect to be as well. And there's the rain! Oh dear. That's why we didn't see any more intermediate running. Because, this is going to be hellishly hard. Because drivers have not put as much practice into wet weather driving. Again, why does anybody put as much practice into wet as you do into dry? And the barriers are... Well, you've seen how close they are. They are Monaco levels of close. It's just that the road's wider. That's the only difference. As far as track comparison is concerned, they're both very twisty. And one small mistake, which is, of course, amplified in the wet. And we are likely to see quite a bit of chaos, I would imagine.
Yeah, chaos I think is the word of what we are about to see tonight as we get ready for round number 13, well, season 13, round number 3 of the championship, the World Online Racing Miami Grand Prix at the Miami International Autodrome. It's looking very sunny on the intro video. Let me tell you, it is a lot less sunny out there, out on track at the moment, as the drivers have got to make their way around 5.410 kilometres, 19 turns with 8 to the right and 11 to the left. And the 3 DRS zones, obviously, with the weather as it is at the moment, there is not going to be any DRS whatsoever. We did see a bit of action in one of the earlier social races around here on the Xbox platform. Cyther involved in plenty, getting spun by one of the Haas cars. Smokey spinning him round at turn number 12. But Cyther definitely working his way up the order with a beautiful move, squeezing his way on the inside into turn number 1, battling all the way through the S section. Battles like that are going to be ones to watch tonight. As you can see, the tyres everyone is on. No real surprise to see the entire field on a set of the intermediates.
No, absolutely not. And that's going to make, especially this section that the Mercedes pair are now coming through, so difficult. It's hard enough to nail right in the dry. Lap after lap after lap. But when you've got the slippery conditions, the car is horrendous to steer. They don't have great turning circles on them at the best of times. So you're trying to maneuver this thing that feels like an absolute barge through what must feel like a keyhole. It is very, very difficult. So we're going to see the very best really rise to the top. But also, again, as we've seen time and again, one tiny mistake is all it takes to chuck a car into the wall. And sometimes it's not even your own mistake you're involved in. So we are in for fireworks in this race.
Yeah, I think that is certainly what we're going to get. I mean, we've got Jake Benham, as people in the chat are saying, he's 16-year-old. He's not even old enough to drive a real car at the moment. He's putting this one on pole position ahead of 2-time esports champion in the Pro Series, Jarno Opmeer. It's a Mercedes front row, Stakelek and Cavaton behind him. Championship leader lining up in 5th place. What can the cars do? Further back, Louis Welsh on the pad. Can he pull off anything from 20th on the grid? Could he get his and Ferrari's first points of the season? They are the only team yet to score points so far. And with Miklavčić being a reserve, it is only Welsh that could score any points for them tonight. But Benham, with the view everyone wants on the run down towards the first corner. We've got 5 lights. They go out and we're underway here in Miami. What of a start site between the two Mercedes. It looks like a pretty decent one then from Benham. Opmeer slotted in behind. Will Lewis going in deep in the background, almost making contact with the Dutchman's Mercedes. But it is Benham, Opmeer, Lewis, Stakelek, Blakely, Cavaton, Manley, Weigang. Manley and Weigang battling side by side at the moment, as are Blakely and Stakelek. There's a car in the wall. It's Cavaton. Carnage in the background. Alvaro Cavaton, front wing missing. Weigang out of the session. Josh Idowu with a 5-second penalty for a severe collision, and I'm not sure he could really avoid any severe collision there, but my goodness me, that was close. And we said it, street circuits, fireworks, wet weather, it was going to happen. Things just got a bit close between Cavaton, Manley and Weigang, and the German is out, and Cavaton right down at the back of the order.
Quite a few wounded cars that people are now trying to pick their way past as Tom Manley gets very, very deep, going through turn 11, does manage to keep his car on the straight and narrow. Blakely from 5th to 3rd on this opening lap. A storming effort in the McLaren in the opening lap. Stakelek got a little bit kind of bullied off the point, off his mark a bit. Will Lewis also up a couple of positions along with Manley. 8 positions up is Iker Baena, so a storming start from the Spaniard in the Alfa Romeo, almost into a top 10 points paying position. But Simon Weigang retiring his car. His car was still moving, but sadly he's opted to retire it. We've got, I suspect, it's about 4 cars at the tail end of the field that will be seeing the pit lane on the opening lap. But with it being, with the weather being the way it is, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the end of their race, as you would expect in a dry race. Actually, Nordite comes into the pits as well. Actually, no, not everybody in that initial group of slow cars has opted to come into the pits, although Idowu has barreled his way into the pit lane. That's usually a precursor to a retirement. No, he's not retired the car just yet, unless that is... oh, there we go, he's left the session. So his car's actually still running. That car's not been retired, so that could cause a bit of a problem earlier on. Carrington is serviced and on his way, along with Joost Noordijk. So those that are kind of out of position a little bit is Daniele Haddad and Liam Parnell, who now find themselves at the back of the field. As at the top end, Jake Benham is starting to get a little bit of breathing space from Jarno.
Yeah, I was about to say, briefly got up towards the 1 second point there, did Benham. Obviously ahead of all of that chaos, where we saw Alvaro, I think, getting, just going across the front of another car. Things are very tight in there. We had 2 wide, we had nearly 3 wide, unfortunately. Something had to give, and Big C with the fantastic Jolyon Palmer quote, "You have to be alert on a street circuit." And it's always tight on the first lap of the race. You can't win it on lap 1. But you can certainly lose a race, and that is the case for Weigang, that is the case for Dowu. Barring a safety car, you have to imagine Noordijk and Carrington are going to have a very long afternoon ahead of them. But it is Benham still leading this race by about, he's hovering around that 9/10 of a second point at the moment. Blakely all over the back of Jarno Opmeer, and there we go, fastest lap of the race for Lucas Blakely. And a reminder, there is no point for the fastest lap here. And we see Baena getting it as well. The slipstream's going to be powerful now, but no DRS. So it will be interesting to see what overtaking is like around this circuit, because I imagine you're like me, Chris, that you've not really seen any rain in any session around Miami.
No, this is my first time of commentating Miami in the wet, so this I am very interested to see how these guys approach it. Will Lewis is is hovering around about a second behind Lucas Blakely at the moment. That gap third to fourth, as Blakely and Opmeer crossing swords they have done many times in pretty much any esports arena you can think of. Ika Baena is the back end of this, what would be a DRS train, first to 11th. Then it's a gap back to Sam Bean, who's got Miklavcic and Louis Welch, the 2 Ferraris for company. Miklavcic actually just flies around the outside of the Alpine as they scream down towards turn 11. So Miklavcic looking to try and, as you said earlier, break Ferrari's duck of 0 points. Then it is Parnell, Haddad. Then a long way back is Noordijk, Carrington, and the ghostly car of Josh Adowu. So who's going to be the one that's challenging for positions? Well, I suspect people are going to be a little bit more cautious than you would normally expect because of lack of familiarity with this track in these conditions. But the rain is not very heavy. If anything, it may actually be coming to a halt, which is because it's so light. It's kind of difficult to see if it's well, you can see it's continuing, but it's difficult to see whether it's actually getting worse or better or what have you. If it starts to really chuck it down, then it's going to make these guys' life even more difficult. But there's no spray off the back of the car, so it's still very light. If the rain does stop, we will transit across into the soft tyre territory in, I'd hazard a guess, around about 5 laps ish. But again, that is a total guess based on absolutely nothing but just not quite picking a number out of the air, but it's certainly not based on past experience of Miami, as Blakely gets right under the rear wing of Opmeer now, coming through turn 7 and 8, almost pushing the Mercedes along, but he compromises his exit from that turn 8, as Carrington is still pressing on the intermediate tyres. Absolutely worth doing. It's very easy to kind of give up so early on. Oh, a bit of a lock up there from Blakely. I thought he was going to barrel into the back of the Mercedes there, but he manages to slow the McLaren down. Because a mistake is that much more likely in these conditions, I think it's well worth pressing on. Unfortunately, it's not what Simon Weigand's car has done. That is now done and dusted on the opening lap. But I think that it would have been worth pressing on. As I say, we will see how the race unfolds.
Yeah, we will. You never know what's going to happen. You never know if we are going to see just a car make a mistake, break a front wing. That has caused safety cars on this game, even if we did have carnage all over the circuit and a car retiring earlier on and it didn't cause a safety car. I've seen some pretty small incidents around this circuit, and that could completely change everything. We probably expected things to be just a one-stop around here, intermediate to intermediate, if the weather stays the same. Even if it does get drier, you'd imagine they're going to probably just change to a set of hard or mediums, depending on when the rain stops. If it does stop right at the last minute, we might see drivers going for the soft tyres. But yeah, definitely doesn't look as heavy as it did earlier on. We're definitely nowhere near any sort of chance for slick tyres at the moment. If you go offline, even if you're online on slicks, you're not going to have a chance. You can just sort of see Lucas following the tyre tracks of Jarno at the moment. If you go offline, you are sailing off towards the wall, and you are going to look very silly indeed. I mean, at least the Marina at turn number 7 and 8 has got some water in it on this occasion. Benham's beginning to put his foot down again. He's got that gap up to 1 second once more. Otmea set the fastest lap not so long ago, but Benham just stretching his legs a bit, and he's on a similar level of ERS to his teammate, so the young man's doing a good job.
It'll be easier to maintain the ERS amount in these conditions as well. Of course, they're not pushing so hard. They're more trying to keep the car under control in these conditions. But yeah, if that weather changes, it would then come down to who's got a bit of a lighter downforce setup. This circuit is a bit of an oddity as far as setup's concerned. You've got a lot of corners, but then not all of them are very quick. Obviously, turns 11 to 16 are very, very slow. So downforce is going to do you absolutely nothing in that section. But there are, there's long enough swathes of track that you're taking at absolute full crank. So, these drivers do have to kind of make a compromise in their setup somewhere. At the moment, it is working pretty well for Jake Benham. Also, you've also got to think that quite a number of people are going to lightly fuel the car, or lighter fuel the car, because they're not going to burn so much in wet weather conditions. So for a while, the fuel lights are going to be on. The two Mercedes pair, for instance, have the fuel light on in their dash. The McLaren does not. So that could come Lucas's way a bit later on. But at the moment, he's struggling to get past. He's certainly finding the pressure on. It looks like he's very keen to get past Jarno Opmeer, but he can't find a way past the Dutchman just yet.
Yeah, I think it could be one of those races where the drivers are that close, unless we see, a tiny little mistake from anyone, and it's very rare we see mistakes from these drivers in race situations. They put in that many laps. They are so focused in these moments. It's going to be a very tough track to overtake on, and you can see Blakely, the gap just staying around about 0.4 of a second as they are in that straight line, and you mentioned the setup compromises. It could be a circuit. You could get away with very little downforce if it wasn't for that Esters, because you would absolutely murder your tyres at that moment. But these front three have clearly got the pace ahead of the rest of the pack. That is being led by Will Lewis at the moment. You can just see Stakelec, Manley, West, Lundy, Pedreño, Perenier behind him, sort of in this next group. And then Baena, Miklevcic, Bean, Welsh, Parnell, Haddad, Nordyke, Cavaton, and Adowu's Ghost Car. Things a bit stretched back further on as Lundy seems to be one of the closest drivers to making an overtake. Things around about 0.4 of a second. He's been a bit closer than that with Jack West, but cannot get close enough where things matter. And I imagine in this first part of the race, he's just getting a bit more of a feel for the car on these tyres. We said it's not one where you are going to see too much rain, as Opmeer now sets the fastest lap of the race, and he has pulled out a tiny bit of a gap on Lucas Blakely. So this will be something to watch. These two, they're part of the Veloci squad. There's been rumours, are we going to see Jake Benham in Mercedes Esports? And I imagine it's not going to be too far before we find out whether that is the case. They do co-op streams together. They clearly get on very well. If Opmeer gets the feeling that he's faster than Benham, I wonder if he's just going to give the Englishman a tiny bit of a nudge to say, come on, get out of the way. We don't want to be giving Lucas any more chance than we have to.
Very, very true. I wondered why that gap had suddenly shrunk between the two Mercedes. That's because Jarno's wiggled his right toe a little bit more and closed that gap down whilst giving him a bit more breathing space to the Scotsman behind. I was keeping an eye on Simon Perroni chasing Ruben Pedreño in 9th position. They were quite close, but that gap just remaining stable at the moment. It looks like that Opmeer, exactly as you say, Luke, is really starting to get on with it and start to press a little bit more than his teammate is, because again, look at the ERS amounts. 76% for Benham, only 44 for Opmeer, and 44 is about right as Jake goes right to the inside line, because he doesn't just want to bail on the throttle, because of course that hands advantage to the McLaren behind. So what I imagine they're going to do, if Jarno's going to make the move, no, he didn't make the move here. I thought Jake might have just hit the brakes a little early coming to that final turn, or they're on for a proper race. We'll see probably how these two race one another, rather than just kind of playing the team game at this stage. Opmeer, another fastest lap of the race that will, of course, continue to fall the lighter the cars get. I would think that also Lucas is thinking about more the longer game here. He hasn't got an awful lot of ERS, about 40% in the tank. So he can't afford to chase off after the Mercedes. So either he's just going to bide his time and press on later on, or he's going to be forced into a position of having to press on. Jarno is now 25% in the battery. That could really hurt as the laps roll on. As has been proven, the races I previously saw, that having an amount of ERS towards the end of the race is absolutely crucial on these long straight sections to primarily defend against the car behind, to try and mitigate the amount of slipstream. And again, Jarno had a look on the inside line coming down towards 10-11, but didn't commit to the move on this occasion. So that's allowing Lucas to remain under a second behind the pair of Mercs.
Yeah, they are. I mean, even though Lucas has dropped back a bit, we are still seeing them pull away from Will Lewis. Someone suggested here that Jarno might have been saving tyres, just bringing these Pirellis in gently to try to get them to last further on. Are we going to see anyone attempt no stops? Because it's a wet race, you don't have to use 2 different compounds of tyres, because there is only 1 compound of the intermediate tyres. And I have seen on previous games, usually with the wet tyres, I have seen drivers go the entire race without stopping. I don't think I've ever seen it on the intermediates, as Jarno almost in the back of his teammate, almost squeezes a nose in the upside of him, as there goes Jake Benham having a bit of a slide through the final corner. Another fastest lap from Jarno up there. The Dutchman's really starting to fire up now, and he's really starting to put his teammate under some pressure. And maybe Blakely's just thinking, I'll stay behind. If things get a bit tasty between the 2 Mercedes, I want to make sure I've got enough time to react.
Yeah, Lucas is like, go on then. Yeah, you two argue with one another. As Otme now under 10%, he's got to back off, or he's just going to be a sitting duck along that back straight. He's got to get some ERS energy back, and he's not going to get a huge amount as the lap continues unless he drags his brakes. Oh, Big's moment of wheel spin coming out of turn 8, which is standard in the dry, let alone the wet. Again, as the rain continues to fall, just very, very lightly. It's not falling much. There's still no spray coming off of anybody's wheels. So it's just enough to keep the track out of the remit of the slicks. But if anything, that rain, has it finally stopped? We might be seeing now, because I'm not seeing a lot of it. I think it's either stopped or it's very, very, very light. So we might start to see the track drying up now. Keep an eye on those lap times to see if they start to really, really plummet. That's going to be your giveaway on whether we're starting to head towards right. Obviously, nowhere near it early. As you said earlier, Lou, we're nowhere near that crossover yet. But you give that about 5 laps if the rain has indeed stopped, and we'll start to see people thinking about moving over to those soft tyres. As again, Jarno locks up into that turn 17 as he nearly piled into his teammate last time around. And I was just thinking that gap to Lucas has come down a little bit, as the McLaren now claims the fastest lap of the race. But Jarno isn't pushing as hard because he needs to keep an eye on his ERS amount. I know we keep harking on about it, but in this track it's really, really important to maintain even some ERS energy in the tank. As I now look at Tom Manley on the back of Stadolek in 5th position of the Red Bull, very, very close to the Haas coming through the first part of the lap. So they've got a bit of a gap between Will Lewis and Lucas Blakely, but Will is now not under immediate pressure because Stadolek has got to defend from Tom Manley. As now the Haas has finally got a bit of breathing space, but Tom was really hustling hard in that first sector.
Yeah, he was indeed, and he got very close coming through the final corners, but again, nothing doing, and similar to what we're seeing at the front, to get so close, he's absolutely slaughtering his battery. He's only getting to about 6 or 7%. By the time he hits the braking point, he's able to stay a lot tighter to the left-hand side of the track, coming through turn number 11 to give himself a bit of a better run through 12. And it's all just going to be single file through here. These top 3 have got away from Jack West slightly, who's still keeping Cartolundi behind him. As there we see the first track limits penalty of the day, and it's for Ika Baena, who's worked himself onto the back of this train, but now has himself a 3-second time penalty. The rain is still there slightly, very likely at the moment, as Daniele Haddad now gets a penalty. As I say that, I think the rain might have actually stopped around there. Now, if it had stopped now, depending on how long the track stays dry, well, stays wet, we're round about another 2 laps, 2 or 3 laps, medium tyres could well be a viable option. The issue, as Relentless Evans has pointed out in the chat, for the Mercedes cars is they're both next to each other. One of these is either going to have to double stack or stay out a lap longer. And if you get it, staying out a lap longer normally can cost you a second or 2. Staying out a lap longer when we're at a transition point with the weather you're talking more 5 or 6 seconds, and that is going to have major consequences for either Benham or Otmia's race. And you'd imagine because he's behind, it's going to be Arno.
I would think, there's two ways of approaching that. Jarno's still got his fuel light on, so he's still playing Russian roulette with his fuel tank. I suspect he'll want to go a lap longer than Jake just to try and win that fuel back. So we'll win it back, try and earn it. You know what I mean? Try and save that little bit of fuel so he doesn't have to lift and coast much towards the tail end of the race. We will see. I could be totally off bat with that one. But yeah, I give that another 3 laps, and I think we'll start seeing people getting onto the soft tyres, assuming the rain does not reappear. The sky, I don't know whether it was a placebo effect, but I reckon the sky is starting to get a little bit lighter. We'll see. We'll see what the drivers do. So who's going to be brave enough to pull the trigger? The top 3, very, very close together. Similar amounts of ERS. Well, actually, Lucas is the one now with the lowest amount between the 3. So we'll see any of that. It's too early yet to be seeing anyone going into the pit lane. The cars are still far too squiggly on the intermediate tyres, as that's now 36.7 on the fastest lap board by Lucas. As I said earlier, when you start seeing that fastest lap changing hands almost as each car comes over the line, that's when you know we're starting to really get towards the crossover period. At the moment, it's too wet. It's no one's going to be well, if they do, they're into the wall. So I've seen some unusual strategy decisions in my time when it comes to that crossover time. Get it right and you're an absolute hero. But get it wrong and you're just an absolute sitting duck.
Yeah, there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity.
Yes.
In these conditions, and these drivers, they've done enough strategies not to make many stupid mistakes. I would wonder as Manley's actually dropped back a bit from Stakelek, and likewise Stakelek from Lewis. So things spreading out with that one. Jarno, he's still got his fuel light on, but I don't imagine he'll be too worried because as the car gets lighter, he'll be, using less energy to accelerate, turn and brake. So things shouldn't be too bad for him at the moment. And if they do double stack, with the gap these front 3 have got, Jarno could possibly still stay on the podium, well, stay in a podium place as things will work out. But for now, things still a bit too wet as there are some moves further back. Liam Parnell and Daniele Haddad battling to esports drivers who didn't really have too much success in the series last year, as Joost Noordijk has left the session. Hopefully, the VSR Mamba Dutchman is able to get in, but Haddad getting ahead of Liam Parnell, proving that you can overtake in the wet conditions here at Miami.
Yeah, that was down turn 11. So that would be a big helping of Slipstream all the way down the back straight. As riding on board with Lucas Blakely, I just suddenly saw Jake go very much heavily to the inside line, and in comes Carter. Surely, I'd have thought this was probably a lap too early if he's thinking about slicks. If he's gone into us, he's in for a very, very rough time, unless he thinks it's going to rain again. That's mediums. So this is a big gamble for the Haas, but then we'll see. He was in a points paying position, so it is quite a gamble. I'll keep an eye on the Canadian to see how he does.
Yeah, definitely. Is everything going to come up for the Canadian? As he's got a bucket full of understeer coming out of the pit lane. That Haas handling like an oil tanker at this part of the circuit, and that's not an oil tanker. That is into the wall. Yeah, there's your answer to his for track ready for slick tyres. I mean, somehow he's got away without any damage, but it is far, far too early. And Carter Lundy, he has just chucked away any chances of first points in this season because, I mean, this is good news for everyone else. They now know, yeah, we're nowhere near those slick tyres at the moment. But in this first sector alone, he's lost about 5 seconds to Liam Parnell. So just too early for Carter Lundy. The medium tyres will be the ones to go for as things stand at the moment. But yeah, we definitely know those are not the tyres that you want to be on at the moment. It is still intermediates, and out in front, it is still, as it has been since lap 1 of the race, Benham, Otmia and Blakely making their way around turn number 17 for the 13th time. And judging by earlier, we're not going to see anyone diving their way into the pits as Joost Noordijk now gets himself ahead of Carter Lundy. And we're still seeing the times come down on those intermediates. We're seeing Cavaton work his way past a very slow-moving Haas, so that's Cavaton up into 17th, Lundy into 18th, and we're now seeing Simon Perigny set the fastest lap of the race. These intermediates have got plenty of life in them yet.
Oh, Carter nearly chucked it away on the exit of turn 16. He's having a bit of a rough time, is Carter, but well, we'll see what he can make of it. Yeah, give it probably another lap before we start seeing a bit of an influx of people coming in. Although saying that, there is still a fair amount of standing water, so may well yet be proven wrong. Again, we don't know what the track feels like. We can only judge by what it looks like, and it does look like there's still a fair amount of water out there. So we will see if anybody else tries their arm at coming into the pits. Now, running aboard with Jarno, is feel like he's now coming off as the Nordic continuing to have connection issues as Carter Lundy is back into the pits. Is that another set of inters, or has he gone soft? So he's gone hard. How difficult do you want to make this for yourself, Carter? He's had a new nose put on, so he didn't get away scot-free. Hard tyres on a drying track. Are you absolutely mad? Well, he's committed to it now, so that's the least of Carter's worries right now. That thing is going to be horrible. How on earth does he propose to get heat into those tyres? By going sideways, probably. Oh my goodness me! That's a curious decision by the Haas. So he's going to become real popular real quick soon, because the top three are going to be bearing down on him very, very quickly indeed.
Yeah, that's the second silliest decision to move on to the set of the hard tyres that I have seen today, and I think, judging by the comments in the chat, every single person is agreeing me with that one. But yeah, Carter Lundy, any chance of points for him have gone out of the window. He needs a safety car now, because he's about to get lapped in probably a lap or two's time, but he's managing to get some traction down the straight at the moment. We'll just follow him. We'll see what the braking trace is like into turn number 11. I imagine very gentle indeed, no more than about 75% there, and even then there's a tiny bit of lock up. There is all sorts of understeer in that Haas. If it was too early for mediums, it was going to have been too early for the set of the hard tyres. But Lucas Blakely, third place at the moment, as Lewis Walsh gets himself a time penalty. So that is 3 seconds for him, and they make their way through this twisty part of the circuit. And I reckon, if they have to stay on intermediates for another 5 or 6 laps, we could see, if they've got a fresh set of soft tyres on, we could see the drivers heading for a set of softs, because even though the rain has stopped, it must be very cool out here in Miami. We don't have an indication to what the track temperature is. It's not drying out whatsoever. I can't remember many times when I've seen the rain be stopped for, we're coming up towards 5 laps now, and the track just doesn't look to be improving.
No, that's caught me out by surprise as well. I thought it'd be clearing better than this. But either way, what you see is what we've got as Lucas Blakely continues to bring the, that fastest lap is just continuing to drop as the yellow flag's coming out because of Josh Adowu's ghosted car. No, it isn't. Who was it? It was somebody that was a bit... No, it's not Jack West. I don't know who that was that caused the yellow flag. Oh, no, I think it was Josh Adowu's ghosted car that might have caused a bit of a yellow flag there. Either way, they're continuing along their merry way. Yeah, I'm very, very surprised. I thought the water would have cleared away a bit better than this, but it just doesn't look like it. Looks like the inters are going to have to be stuck with now. That's going to put the drivers in a really awkward position, because these inters are going to burn out. I'm not convinced that we're going to see these sets of inters, the starting intermediate tyres, last to the end of the race with no more rain. If it was still raining, sure, but it isn't, and it hasn't been for a while. These tyres will burn out. So what do the drivers do? Do they go for another set of intermediates, or do they try their arm at dries? So that's going to be a really, really difficult... What isn't going to be a difficult decision is which set of dry tyres are going to go for. It ain't going to be the white ones.
No, it's certainly not. I think someone pointed out here, Carter didn't really have a choice what tyres he went on. Yeah, I don't think dry tyres, no matter which ones, were going to be the best, as Jake Benham just having to defend slightly there from Johanna Ottmeyer. This might allow the Dutchman to get a cut back through the final corner, but can't quite get alongside on this occasion, as this is an interesting one. Josh Adowu's AI has come into the pit lane. Johanna Ottmeyer side by side with Jake Benham, though, down towards turn number 1. Ottmeyer on the outside, Benham on the inside. Is Ottmeyer able to get the traction? Is he able to hold off? They're neck and neck at the moment, and watch out for Lucas Blakely, who's got a fantastic view of all of this. Benham just holding on for now. Is he? Ottmeyer's got the inside again. Can we see Blakely follow through on the McLaren Mercedes as well? Ottmeyer into the lead. Blakely into second place. He chucks his nose down the inside into turn number 7. Ottmeyer gets the better traction, But can the McLaren outdrag the Mercedes down the straight? Fantastic racing there. And it's Uppbeat in the lead, Blakely in second, and he's basically pushing the Mercedes along.
Benham on the outside, heading down towards 10-11. What can he do against the McLaren? They touch wheels, and it looks like the Mercedes has managed to muscle his way back through to second, just closing the door on Lucas Blakely. Wow, how close was that? That was incredibly well driven from all three of them to make that work. Blakely now having a look on the inside line of the exit of 16. Can't quite get it done. Here we go again. Uppbeat has now run off a little bit into the distance. But Lucas Blakely is he's burning his battery down to under 10% to try and keep up with the Mercedes. He's really pushing very, very hard to try and keep up. But Jarno is now in the 10% region on his battery. So the advantage as far as energy is concerned is actually with Jake in the middle of this trio. And here we go again with the Mercedes swap round. This trio tango continues.
Yeah, very interestingly, we said Josh Adowuzei had come into the pits. He's put on another set of intermediate tyres, so that says a lot about the track conditions at the moment. We're in sort of with Turkey 2020 with the Inter slicks, Esteban Ocon going the entire race distance on the same set of tyres, where it stopped raining with about 30 laps to go. The track just didn't dry out because it was a freshly resurfaced track. And of course, whether the F1 game has simulated that, if they have, I'll be very impressed at the moment, because Miami, of course, is a brand new track. They'll have resurfaced the roads before they got things ready for Formula 1. But we've still got a Mercedes 1-2 in the opposite order as there is a yellow flag. And that is Louis Welsh, who's just had a bit of a moment coming through the S's, gets offline slightly and gets passed by Bean, passed by Haddad, passed by Parnell, and he is now down into 15th. But I wonder if Welsh has got a tiny bit of damage. No, they're just locking up at that moment in time. Uppbeat, Benham, Blakely now, your top three. Will Lewis got up a tiny bit about all of that, and he's just managed to pressure very nicely from those cars behind him. Stakelek in 5th with a 3-second time penalty. You can see the other penalty there for Baena, Haddad and Welsh as well. So Stakelek, as things stand, has managed to drop Tom Manley, but would drop behind Manley and West, two of the stalwarts of the Xbox platform. Back towards the front though, 11 laps to go at the end of this one. Jarno Uppbeat leading on board now with Jake Benham, and that was the first time we saw Jake having to defend down the straight, and Jarno played it perfectly, got the switch back. I don't think he would have expected it to take that long, and I definitely don't think he would have expected to see Lucas fight back with him. And I think what we are expecting here though, Stakelek into the pits. Has have tried this with one car, it didn't work out, as it's another set of intermediates for Stakelek.
Yeah, it looks like they're sticking with the Inters for this one. I was also watching Daniele Haddad pull off a great move coming through turns 11 to 16 to get ahead of Sam Bean. It was very side by side between the pair of them through that twist, which is so difficult to do as it's so narrow. But yeah, Haddad does indeed win out on that one. The Italian now leading that small group towards the tail end of the field as that gap between Blakely and Lewis now beginning to climb again. 3.6 seconds now separates the McLaren from the Alpine. Will Lewis himself has got himself a couple of seconds between himself and the Red Bull of Tom Manley, who keeps the rest of that little conga line company of Jack West, Simon Perny, Ruben Pedreno, Ika Baena and Primoz Miklavčić. It looks like the Mercs, are they getting closer together again? It looks like Joke? Good God. Jake is closing in a bit on Jarno Uppbeat. He's not going to be close enough to challenge for that top spot. Needs to bide his time as we are fast heading towards just 10 laps remaining. Lucas Blakely is actually falling off the back a little bit of the two Mercedes. Lucas is going to want the two Mercs to start arguing again to help bring him back into the fray and to give them all indeed an opportunity to recharge some battery.
Yeah, certainly. Only 10 laps remaining. I hope you're all enjoying this WOR race sponsored by Grid Finder. If you want to see more of our action, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Next week we'll be at Australia. I've just actually heard from Carter Lundy. He was being told by Mark that they were at the crossover period and that they were going for that slicks might be the better tyre. So it seems, unfortunately, that Mark and Jeff have been learning strategy at the same place, but it was definitely not anywhere near intermediate tyres at the moment. We'll keep an eye on what Stakelek's pace is as well, because we'll see whether he can gain a bit of an advantage on that set of tyres. And we're looking for some battles further down at the moment. Perenier on the back of Jack West, as Benham was closing up to the back of Otmia, but nothing doing as everything just concertinas up. The Aston Martin just almost thinks for a second about showing his nose. Can't do anything from that far back. Are we going to see drivers stretch these tyres towards the end?
Sorry, I had to move then, so I was sneezing. I beg your pardon. If they manage them properly, I mean, they could. I'd be surprised. I wasn't convinced they could do it, but they might. They may well prove me wrong on that one. I'm also keeping an eye on Starlick. Does he have enough laps to make those fresh tyres really work for him? No idea. We genuinely have no clue. As Perony and West are side by side, now coming into the final turn. The Aston Martin trying an outside manoeuvre, not coming off though. As now Jarno Odmir reclaims the top spot. As into the pits comes Jack West. What's he going to go for? Let's see. Now he's had enough of these intermediate tests, along with Pedreño. Now, is this an indication that the Inters just cannot last long enough? Are they getting into puncture territory? It's soft tyres for the AlphaTauri. What does the McLaren go for? The McLaren's gone Inters. So, I'm going to keep an eye on Jack. Let's see how he does.
Yeah, same. I think I'm going to go on board with Pedreño here. Straight away coming out of the pits, Jack West lights up his rear tyres, which is always a bit of a sign, isn't it, on what the circuit is like. But, yeah, the intermediates looked very second-hand on Jack West's car. And there we go. Pedreño just drives past Jack West as if he's got the handbrake on. So, again, there's the little answer about that one. Now, whether that is just warm-up or whether that is what the tyres are like, we will wait and see at the moment. I'm going to go for, you need another set of intermediate tyres on if you are coming into the pits. West plummeting down the order. And Stekelek, he's catching up to Miklavčič and Baena by about a second a lap. But he might have just run out of time to really catch up any more than that. So, if you can get these intermediates towards the end without a puncture, they could be the best thing to do. The pit light's been on Benham's car for each of the last 3 laps, and he's ignoring it. I imagine it's the same for Otmia. I imagine it's the same for Blakely and a lot of others in this field as well. Otmia setting the fastest lap on the previous lap suggests he's got plenty of life in those intermediates. The Dutchman makes his way around turn number 17 for the 21st time in this race, and that is a big one. Blakely into the pits.
Wow. What does the Scotsman go for? I mean, you see kind of the safer strat is Inters. The brave man would go soft. It's intermediates for the McLaren. As who else is that in? Simon Perony and DRS is enabled. That's usually the cue to get onto dry tyres. What does Perony do? It's mediums for the Aston Martin. Has Perony timed that to absolute perfection? We will see. Daniele Haddad is also coming in. What does the Italian get on the Williams? I suspect it's going to be soft, but we will see. It is soft tyres. Yes, it's soft going on the Williams. So we will see what's Sika Baena done. He's had a moment coming through turn 4 to 7, but his tyres are absolutely knackered, I'd have thought. Has he got a puncture? Has he got a puncture or a rear puncture on that car? Because that's a very unhappy car. It's I wonder, he's either got a puncture. Well, he wouldn't be going that quick if he had a puncture, admittedly. So he's struggling a bit with these tyres. So what happens there? Let's have a look at Perony. What's he doing? He's just been overtaken by Sam Bean and Liam Parnell, but he hasn't had a chance to really work these tyres yet. DRS is now enabled, so let's see what happens. Blakely went stuck with intermediate tyres. I think with the amount of laps left, Inters is probably the better way to do it. But, let's see who makes this work. Because if you can get the soft tyres to work well, you could be gaining 3-4 seconds a lap. And in comes Otmir.
Otmir then into the pits. We'll see what tyres he goes for. You can just see the deltas there. We're keeping an eye on Jack West. He was about 5 seconds behind at one point, and it's softs for Otmir. Remember esports in China? Otmir called intermediate conditions bang on and took a fantastic victory. Is he going to do something here? Stekelek sets the fastest lap of the race on a set of the intermediate tyres. So his fresh inters are giving him all the grip that he needs. And Blakely, on those fresh intermediate tyres, has done an undercut here. And Stekelek round the outside of Jarno Otmir. Where on earth has he come from? We'll see what Jack West's time is towards the line. Will he set the fastest lap of the race on the softs? No, he will not. So intermediates, maybe, just maybe, the best tyres at the moment. And they are somehow, with DRS being enabled, the rain has been stopped for, 15 to 20 minutes at the moment. Intermediates is still the best tyre.
It looks like it. Bayonet and Parnell have also gone to the soft tyres as well. So, I mean, look at the gap between Stowlek and Jarno. It's 2 seconds almost. Yes, granted that Jarno hasn't had an opportunity to work those soft tyres yet, but you don't lose that much in tyre temperature alone, as Blakely has just nailed the Red Bull of Tom Manley in the twisties between 13 and 14. That Red Bull is not very happy. I wonder if he's got a puncture there as well. 5 second quarter cutting. He's very, very slow. So that car is not happy whatsoever. I suspect he has a puncture, as that car does not want to steer straight whatsoever. In comes Benin then, only just slowing down to the line. Will Lewis right behind him. I suspect Miklavčić is going to follow suit in the Ferrari, is he? No, Miklavčić, he's rolling the dice. He's going to keep these tyres on his car. Lucas Blakely then, with fresh inters, has just set the fastest lap of the race. What about Stowlek? How many positions has he gained? I'm just going to double check that. He's back up into his starting position, actually. So, they rolling the dice with fresh inters might well pay off for him. He's got Benham, who's just put inters on, so Benham didn't go with soft tyres either. Where is Jarno? Is he gaining? He's now 3 seconds behind his teammate. Manley and Bean are also in. What do they go for? Keep an eye on the tower for that one. It's soft for Sam Bean. It's probably going to be soft for Manley. It is. So we've got a very weird mixture of soft, medium, and inters.
I think mediums are definitely the wrong tyre. Jake Benham all over the back of Peter Stackerleg here. He's got the run, he's got the pace, he's got the racing line before we even get to the corner, and that is Jake Benham up into third, and I'm going to say Annette second, because I can't see Miklavčić, I mean, even if his tyres do last towards the end, I can't see them lasting towards the end in any sort of decent pace that he's going to be able to pull away from Blakely and Benham. And in fact, Lucas Blakely might well be within the DRS detection point here. I think he was just inside of it at this point. So we could see the Scotsman take the lead of the race very soon. And judging by how the softs are performing at the moment, are they going to get enough life in them? Are they going to become good enough that they can make their way up towards the end? On the last lap, Jack West was overtaken by Alvaro Cavaton as Miklavčić does come into the pits. So Blakely leads. West was overtaken by Cavaton, and that gap extended to a second. It's not really grown that much on this lap. Blakely sets the fastest lap of the race on the intermediate still. This is going to be a crazy, crazy final few laps. If those softs switch on, do not write off Otmia from this victory.
Had a spun on his soft tyres. He had a spin at around about where he did in qualifying, actually. I think it was slightly later, around turn 15, somewhere around there. I just saw his ghosted car trying to recover. So, again, the soft tyres not working well on the Williams. As Caraton is now in, that's going to be soft tyres. Anyone coming in now is going soft tyres. Can you imagine if it rained now? Can you imagine if the rain started to come down again? No sign of it. If anything, the sun's beginning to come out. And Daniele Haddad has retired his car. It has been a day of frustration for the Italian, and he's decided to park it. But who's called this right? It looks like Blakely and Benham, and Stowlek, indeed, have got it absolutely spot on going into Jarno. Just cannot do anything on these softs at the moment. And he looks like, is he being caught by Will Lewis? That the Alpine looks a bit more comfortable than the Mercedes does. So now the Alpine won't have any DRS just yet. And also Pedreño is right there, ready to make Jarno's day even worse.
Yeah, could be dropping a long way down the order here. Well, couldn't we have another 2 places? Round number 1 of the season didn't really go to plan. Still managed to pick up a few points, but he'll have been wanting a top 5 finish. He'll have been wanting a victory after leading for quite a long time. Benham sets the fastest lap of the race. It's 2.5 seconds between the top 2 drivers with 4 laps to go. Stackerleg in third. As things stand, even with that 3-second penalty, he is going to hold on to that third place as Will Lewis is onto the back of Jarno Otmia, and Will Lewis was a very late reserve. He only knew he was racing about 3 or 4 hours before this race started. Who knows, if he can find himself a bit of pace, he's going to get himself up into 4th place. He's got a slim chance of getting a podium. We'll wait and see how things go as Otmia's tyres, the softs aren't looking as bad as they were earlier on, but for some reason they're just not switching on.
Yeah, but look at the track. It's only really now starting to come towards the dry running conditions, and even offline it's still going to be a little bit dicey. So it's just come too late for the soft runners. We still have 3 laps to go. It might just about be enough. I think this is going to be more damage limitation, if anything else, for the soft runners. Again, we will see. As Louis Welch still hasn't pitted. How on earth is he still going?
But that means we have seen something which we've not seen all night. Someone on the dry tyres has overtaken a car on a set of intermediates. Admittedly, they're 25-lap old. They'll feel like they're 25 years old at the moment, and somehow he's not going to puncture either, which, on the pad, is an absolute miracle that Louis Welch is doing this at the moment, but I think he's going to plummet down the order. Blakely with another fastest lap. He's just extended his lead. Benham, he's trying to close in, but it's hundredths of a second he's gaining. It is not really enough at the moment, and Will Lewis is definitely within DRS range of Uppmeyer. Can't get close enough into turn number 1. Uppmeyer's got a chance of holding this one out. It's going to be a fascinating final 3 laps here, folks.
100% Will Lewis in the Alpine is ready to do battle with the Flying Dutchman. The champion has got it all to do if he wants to hang on to 4th, which you never normally say. Jarno Uppmeyer fighting to hang on to 4th position. Yeah, that's an unreal statement to make as Carrington and Bean are arguing for 12th position out of the final couple of corners. Carrington just about managing that one in the Williams, and Tom Manley gaining the fastest lap as well. He's right behind them in the Red Bull. What can Will Lewis do against Jarno? I think Jarno's probably just about getting enough grip out of the soft tyres to start to really make use of them, as Miklavčić has had a problem coming out of turn 8 and has fallen down into 10th position. Both Ferraris at the moment are in the points. So they are looking like they're going to break their duck. But how on earth is Louis Welch hanging on to those tyres? Jack West is ready to kind of just dance around the outside of the Ferrari at this point. And, Jack is probably feeling very frustrated because Louis just it's got nothing left. There you go. It is now the AlphaTauri has got the opportunity to try and duck under the Ferrari. No, somehow Louis manages to find some traction left out of what's must be just rubber bands left on his tyres by this point. Here comes Jack then, DRS open. It'll be a fairly straightforward manoeuvre for him. There's no point Louis pitting now. He may as well just try and hang on as best he can, because behind Miklavčić is another 7.5 seconds to Ika Baena. So Louis, he's committed now. He may as well just run this through to the end.
Yeah, he might. And we saw the fastest lap there by Tom Manley. Why that could be key, he set the fastest lap on a set of the soft tyres. The gap between Jarno and Stackerleg is just starting to come down. Cameron sets the fastest lap on a set of the soft tyres. This is going to be a fascinating end to the race. I mean, Uppmeyer, he's got to gain, we're talking, 9.1 seconds in 1 lap? It's going to be a tough job, but you never know. When these softs start working, it's like flicking a switch.
Yeah, but he's now getting into the point where the softs are beginning to work, as Ika Baena now adds his name to the penalty board. And bear in mind that Jarno only has to gain 7/10 to be in a podium position. So, of course, he's not going to settle for that. He's going to gun for the top spots, but that gap between himself and Stadler is absolutely disintegrating. At 1 lap, I can't see it being more than 3rd position, but we'll see. This, like you said earlier, this is going to be a fantastic banzai lap from Jarno Uppmeyer. Will Lewis, he did everything he possibly could. He's just going to be denied, but depending if Jarno can drag the Alpine along, Stadler might lose out on the podium by 2. We'll see if Jarno can gain that gap down. He'll gain it down enough for himself. That I'm convinced of. He might drag Will Lewis enough that Will gains 4th.
Yeah, because Will's got a lot fresher intermediate tyres as well, so I imagine Stackerlegs are just starting to burn out at the moment in these dry conditions. Blakely leading, Benham in 2nd, Uppmeyer now in a net 3rd place. He has closed up the gap enough. Cameron sets the fastest lap of the race. With Welch being on old intermediate tyres, I would not write off Cameron, who was last on the 1st lap. I would not write off Cameron taking a point in this race. Uppmeyer's broken the DRS back to Will Lewis, so I think 5th is the best that the Alpine driver is going to be able to do, but it is Lucas Blakely making his way around turn number 16 for the final time in this race. He was following the Mercedes behind all race. He got the undercut right. He went to the intermediates early, Uppbeat went to the slicks, and they've only just come good, and the rain stopped 19 laps ago. And it is Lucas Blakely. He rounds turn number 17. He's drifting the car. He's loving life at the moment. He extends his championship lead. Blakely triumphant here in Miami. Benham takes second place. Stakelek will cross the line in third, but it'll be our first podium this season for Jarno Uppbeat. Will Lewis taking the top 5. Pedreño in 6th. Perronier, West, Welsh, Miklavčić and Welsh will be the rest of the points finishers, I believe, although Cavaton is really closing that gap. So let's wait and see how this one goes. But Blakely, he called that one right, and Uppbeat is wishing that race went on another 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair play, Louis Welch. Actually managing to bring that car home on its starting tyres. Both Ferraris in the points.
Cavaton steals the
Oh
points.
no, Louis Welch had a penalty, beg your pardon. So Louis didn't gain points after all that by 2/10. He was actually denied, but Miklavčić did get points.
And fair play to Welsh for A, getting those tyres all the way to the end of the race, and Cavaton proving why you should never, ever, ever give up in Formula 1, in esports, in life in general. He carried on until the end of the race after being last on lap 1. Cavaton manages to secure a point, but it's all about the Scotsman. He's done we talk about the Flying Dutchman, it's more the Flying Scotsman at the moment. Lucas was stuck in a train earlier on, got the strategy right, and he's on the podium once again, and it is a second victory this season, extending his championship lead once more. Another podium for Benham, and you can see there Jarno Uppbeat in 3rd place after what's been a tough start to the season. He'll be happy with that, but I'm sure he would have wanted a lot more after leading that race in the early stages. We'll take a look then at what the rest of the results were here at the Miami Grand Prix. Stakelek coming home in 4th place after a brilliant undercut on the intermediates. Would have got a podium if it wasn't for the penalty. Who knows if he'll try and get that removed. Will Lewis in 5th. Pedreño, Perronier, West, Miklavčić and Alvaro Cavaton round out the point scorers. Last to 11th for Louis Welsh in no stops. An absolutely brilliant strategy from him. And look at that, his fastest lap was 5 seconds slower than Cavaton's. That shows how tough it was for him at the end of that race. Being in 12th, Baena 13th, Parnell, Nordyke, Manley, Adowu, and then Hardy and Lundy and Weidgang were the retirees from Chris. It was just, again, an absolutely stunning race and quite a perplexing one from our point of view. We kept predicting, oh, this will be the lap the intermediates are, toast. This will be the lap the intermediates are toast. And it really only was the final 2 or 3 laps where we started to see what the slicks could do.
Yeah, bearing in mind that Carrington was through the pits twice and still managed to get into the top 10. Only just, granted, but he's managed to do it. Didn't throw in the towel when he had early troubles and managed to bring that one home. But fair play to everybody. Those soft tyres, you'd have thought in normal circumstances, in other tracks, those soft tyres would have come good quicker. It's the nature of this circuit that, again, that's probably because no one really knows how well they dry out. We haven't seen them had to dry out, have we? So no one really knows how quickly this road circuit can actually deal with wet weather. But, well, there we go. We've just proven it in WOR, so FIA, take note.
Yeah, that's something that like we said, very interesting. Istanbul 2020, we mentioned, a similar situation where things never sort of ended. We're hearing Tom Manley actually had 3 separate punctures on his car here, so I think it was the rears that we saw go on Baena. I did see a rear puncture on Manley, and clearly, whether it was both rears and a front tyre, making things very hard to finish. Louis Welsh finishing on 96% on his tyres. I mean, fair play to him. He struggled in qualifying, was at the back of the grid and missing out by a few tenths of a second. And I think Carter summed it up best. Louis not won any points. I think he's won a lot of fans with that performance.
Yeah, top respect to Louis Welch on the pad as well, making how the hell he's managed that. I always say that about Louis Welch. The pad master, how he's so fast on a pad, it just defies expectation. How good he would be with decent wheel and what have you remains to be seen. But I've got nothing else to add. That he's just incredible as to how well he can do on a pad.
Yeah, it's a fantastic job. We're going to wait and see if any of our top 3 are going to be interested in interviews, and we might have got the order of the top 3 won if we'd have made predictions early, but straight away from really the first lap, they were pulling away from everyone else. You know, crazy pace between them, and then we saw that brilliant battle. I think round about lap number 11, lap number 12, where we saw Jarno finally get an opportunity and take it. Blakely able to follow through, and then Benham fighting back.
Fair play to Jake there. He really made Jarno work for it. Wasn't prepared to just let any of them run off into the distance. He gave it everything he possibly could. And Stowlek as well was one of the first to stick with. No, he was the first indeed to go for fresh inters. So that was essentially gambling on the track conditions not changing enough, which frankly no one knew. By that point, there was still 12 plus laps left when he did that. So, you know, he made that work very, very well. So, yeah, I think all our drivers that made it to the end did a brilliant job. We have got our race winner ready to have a chat to us.
Yes, we have. So, without further ado, we will get him in towards the commentary box, and we will hear from our race winner for the second time this season. He's becoming a bit of a familiar face here in the interview room. It is Lucas Blakely. A fantastic performance from yourself. How shocked were you that the track dried out as slowly as it did?
Well, it became quite. You sort of understood what was happening from like an early phase in the race. So, yeah, we saw that the rain had stopped, and then it was very, very slow. Like we were still doing good times with the inters. They weren't overheating, and we were just like, why, why is it not drying? It was kind of crazy. So we sort of understood very early on that it was going to be one of those races where it takes sort of like imagine Turkey 2021, 2020 sort of vibes, I believe, where the track just infinitely is greasy. Basically a similar situation today, which was very unusual. But nonetheless, we were all in the same sort of boat, so we just had to adapt to it as we went. And yeah, it was tough. It was very hard to make to take the risk and call the right decision. I tried to make the decisions as informed as possible. Like I didn't want to do anything sort of senseless and just do something for no absolute reason. I mean, I chose inters for the second stint because I genuinely thought that was the correct decision, because the track was drying so slowly that we didn't even know if it would get to dry. But the second I came out the pits, DRS got enabled, and usually that's signal for you are doomed when you're on the wet compounds. But what I knew that the dry tyres weren't firing up very quickly, because I had my engineer Anton telling me all the soft guys were spinning and struggling, and it was really challenging. So it was just keeping the faith and mainly focusing on getting the outlap nailed, making sure we got the jump on the Mercs, because they were working very, very well together. I think we had very good pace in the wet. Maybe a few things I would do slightly different with on the balance side of things, but nonetheless, I think it all panned out quite well in the end. So, yeah, super happy that I was on the right side of a rainy strategy for once. It's not often in my favour when it rains, Usually I'm the victim when it does, everyone starts on inters and stuff like that. But thankfully today I was, I made the right decision, thankfully. So, not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. Tell us about that battle. I think just had a look. It was lap number 17. Jarno and Jake started battling, and you got your nose in there, briefly got up in towards second before Jake got your way back. Was that sort of a strategy of yours, just to hang back slightly and see what the two with Mercedes was doing? Because Jarno got close to Jake on quite a few occasions.
Well, yeah, there was a few times where I was getting very, very close to Jarno as well, but I opted not to bleed my entire battery, because in order to make an overtake, you need to bleed the whole battery. And I knew the Mercs were sort of trying to work together with their batteries, so I was quite surprised to see them start fighting where they did, because I was just waiting for any opportunity. And I mean, I got Jake, but then, tried right up the inside of Jarno through Fake Harbour. I left him enough room on the outside, tried to be respectful, and then it was a bit of a drag race, and I didn't want to bleed completely my battery to 0%, so I sort of stopped it when I got down to the lower ends of my charge, I was it was a little bit on the limit with Jarno and the braking zone sort of changing trajectory a little bit, but at the end of the day, it was I knew it wouldn't have been anything like Stewart's worthy because it would have been fine from their eyes. So I was like, yeah, it was more trying to regain. Just trying to regain composure and stay right on them because I was just trying to keep as much pressure on them as possible and make the best of any opportunity that arose, and that's exactly what thankfully we managed to do in the end. So yeah, really happy that we made the right call and made it to the end. I wasn't quite sure the softs, the inters were going to be the right tire all the way to the end, but yeah, for once the wet strategy was on my side today, so I'll take it. And I'm just happy. The main thing I'm happy with is I'm happy with to make up for my qualifying error, because I mean I put it on pole but invalidated, so it was very stupid. Because I was struggling the whole qualifying through that stupid RNG chicane, and I thought I would take it a bit tighter to try and be safe, but I just didn't calculate, brake too much basically, and then I was too early on the apex and got the invalidation, which was rookie amateur mistake. So yeah, not happy with that, but I'm glad that I rectified that. I just need to stop making it so stupidly difficult for myself.
Yeah, definitely worked out well. Chris, any questions for our race winner?
You're right there, Lucas. How you doing, pal?
Oh my days, that was fascinating to hear that one.
All of our viewers.
That's as close as I'm ever going to get. Long time since I lived in Dundee. Lucas, one thing that I've mentioned several times, and this is actually twice I've commentated on you this week at this track. With Miami obviously being new to the game this year, it's not in your racing DNA. It's not a track where everybody has that level of familiarity like Silverstone, Monza, Spa, Monaco, etc., etc. It's not a track we've seen countless times in various games. How hard is it to get to grips with a track, especially one as tight and twisty as Miami?
Well, Miami certainly is it's a challenging track. I mean, certain sections are fun. I really enjoy the sort of sector 1. I quite enjoy that section, high speed flowing. You got to be very precise. So I quite enjoy that section through sector 1. Sector 2, I don't think a single soul on the planet enjoys it with that little chicane. Last corner is quite tricky 'cause it's a bit off camber. Very hard to judge your braking point and to feel the front axle as you sort of release the brake into that corner. But overall, it's once you do enough practice on a track, it's down to like the fine details. I mean, obviously it's new to this year's game, but I mean, even for PSGL, it was quite natural trying to, it's just another track. You've just got to go racing at it. Every track has its own unique sort of quirks and challenges. But yeah, happy. I mean, today was a bit of redemption for PSGL because I was really quite annoyed with myself after PSGL. I mean, I was kind of hoping to redeem myself in qualifying today, but then I threw it in the bin even more. So I know the pace was very strong, so that's the sort of the positive out of all of these things. I think the pace was good, but just need to. There's always more I can improve. I mean, we're not at that peak esports perfection level yet. Nobody is. We're going to see the level just get better and better and better, and I look forward to only getting stronger because I feel like it's been a good start to everything so far, but there's always more that I can do better. I mean, this is nowhere near like the final form, let's say. There's so much more details that we need to go into, so much more I can improve within my own driving on this game. I mean, it's a totally new platform, so I'm never complacent. I mean, people maybe on the outside, they'll look at it and think, well, I've got quite a few race wins now, but on this game anyway, but I don't really view it like that. I don't really take too much confidence from almost like everything combined. I'm always thinking, well, I didn't do this that well. Like, for example, my final run in Q3 this week wasn't, well, it was okay, but it was not the perfect lap and invalidated it. And then, for example, in PSGL, I was not ideal with the, that lap was a bit better, but I got completely bounced all over the place by this chicane, which is something I need to look into. So, but yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say is the results at the end of the day don't show the full image of everything that goes into it. I mean, we're still at a very early phase, and we are nowhere near the peak potential of what is going to be possible on this game, and that goes for practically all the esports drivers. So still a lot of work to be done to get to a level where I would say everything's pretty good. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm happy that things are at least going well in the meantime, before we really iron out every last detail and uncover and leave no stone unturned, basically. But yeah, happy.
Yes, like I said, imagine you are delighted. Congratulations on today's win, and we'll let you head off, Lucas.
Thank you very much, guys, and see you next week. As I'm gonna guess it's Australia, is it?
You
Something
guessed it
like
correctly.
that. Wow, well, I actually know what race it is next. That is rare, very rare. My days. Right, okay, maybe I can actually practice correctly for once. Nice one. Anyway, take care, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the race, and catch you next week. Love you all. Take care. Bye, bye, bye. See you.
Yeah, thanks Lucas for joining us. Unfortunately, I don't think we are going to get Jake and Yarno, but he's on it again for the second time this season. Lucas Blakely wins here in WOR, and a fantastic performance, very articulate in the commentary box as well. Can't remember seeing many drivers give that long of an answer. Seems pretty relaxed about how things are going at the moment, but making it clear, you know, nothing is perfect yet. Nobody's perfect, and he's got to keep on working. We can easily see others come back. I mean, we saw that in qualifying today. You know, we thought Opmia had taken... We thought Blakely had taken it, but as he mentioned, he invalidated. Then we thought it was Jarno Opmia, and then Jake Benham came out of nowhere with that stunning lap. So you've got to be on your best, and he knows that.
Yeah, it's scary to think that they haven't gone Super Saiyan yet, and the amount of pace they're already showing. That's quite a terrifying prospect for us mere plebs. But that's why they are in the position they are. That's why they are the very best in the business. It's because they don't stop trying to find the extra few tenths, few hundredths, as Lucas said. They don't stop turning the stones over until such time as they get to a point where they cannot find any more pace in the setup they've got. So that's why they are the very best in the world.
Yeah, it is the very best. And as Lucas mentioned, next time around we are going to see, of course, not a new track, but it's new onto the game in terms of its track layout. It is going to be round number 4 of the season at Australia, a slightly changed circuit, and one that they've done in an attempt to make overtaking a bit easier.
Yeah, that's going to be a curious one, because obviously this year we saw a reprofiled Australia, which I actually quite liked. I did enjoy seeing the Australian race this year, so we'll see how well that translates in its virtual form.
Yeah, we will indeed. I am certainly looking forward to that one. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. It's been a brilliant race in the wet conditions, and once again it is Lucas Blakely who comes out on top, but those Mercedes boys are starting to look very rapid. Who will come out on top next week at Australia? I believe Dan will be joining me once again for that one, so make sure to check that out. Make sure to check at WOR League on Twitter for all the information about the Xbox, PlayStation leagues, which will be starting soon, the rest of the PC leagues, and the team competition for Legacy Division on the Xbox as well. You can follow myself on Twitter down below at LukeEffridge95, and you can follow Kings as well, just over there at KingKodiak_UK. But for myself and Chris, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you in a week's time at Albert Park. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.